Chapter 1785. At this moment, the divine light was majestic. Sun Er, this is, Xiao Yan obeyed Yao Lao's words, or rather, he obeyed his heart and hurriedly knelt down. Ancestor God. Xiao Sun Er said emotionally. It is the God that I mentioned. I didn't expect him to descend. Xiao Yan's heart shook. Even though he already knew the result, he was even more shocked when he heard Sun Er say it herself. At the same time, a few Doshings turned their eyes to the majestic light figure at the same time. Who are you? The leader of the Doshings stood in the air. His eyes focused as he asked in a deep voice. Are you trying to meddle in other people's business? He had already advanced to the Doshing class, but he had just begun to experience the wonderful feeling of being able to look down on the entire continent. At this moment, this Doshing felt an intense uneasiness in his heart. Attack! The Doshing who had charged out to capture Xiao Yan and Xiao Sun Er paused for a moment. It was as though he had received an order through voice transmission. He immediately grabbed at the two of them. A powerful Do-Chi ripple was released from this Doshing's body. A pair of bright light wings appeared behind this Doshing. It seemed to be some kind of mysterious martial technique. In an instant, time seemed to have stopped as he appeared in front of the two of them. Even Xiao Yan and Xiao Sun Er's expressions did not change at all. It was at this moment that a pair of calm eyes appeared from the figure in the majestic divine light. They were like the eyes of the heavens, staring at the sky. The boundless aura froze at this moment. That pair of eyes released a divine light. It was like an icy glare that caused the entire world to stop. It was like the anger of a god. At this moment, the few Doshings in Xiao Yan and Xiao Sun Er's eyes were like characters on a picture that had been erased with an eraser. It turned into endless dust and scattered in the sky. Then, with a gust of wind, it disappeared between heaven and earth. A couple of strange imprints appeared on the bodies of the Doshings who had disappeared. An intense light figure was formed in the sky. That light figure was boundless. The entire sky seemed to be unable to contain it. Within the pattern there was a boundless region. Within it there was a majestic palace. A majestic figure stood on top of it like a giant, exuding an aura that could shake the universe. At least, that was how Xiao Sun Er and Xiao Yan saw it. Xiao Yan thought that he had never seen a Dodi before. However, he could tell that the divine figure standing above the palace in the light image was an expert who had surpassed a Dodi. If nothing unexpected happened, it should be the master behind those few Doshings. They can't be from the soul race. Yao Lao was extremely shocked. Where did such a powerful existence come from? This is definitely not an expert from our continent. She knew about the Hun clan. Actually, when she saw the seriously injured Ling Ying and the few Doshings, she felt that something was wrong. Not to mention that the soul race had found him. There were only a few Doshings in the entire continent. Where did the Hun clan find so many Doshings? There must be a problem. Now it seems that the ancestor god has just finished off a few Doshings, but this person, could it be that he is also a god? I'm afraid I've caused a huge problem for the ancestor god, Xiao Sun Er thought to herself. At the same time, a mental fluctuation came from the boundary of the light pattern. How dare you? You even dare to wipe out this god's kin. You're courting death. The boundless mental fluctuation shattered the entire sky in an instant. Xiao Sun Er and Xiao Yan couldn't feel this mental fluctuation. Naturally, they couldn't decipher the meaning behind it. However, the light pattern shook. A pitch-black spear penetrated through the void from the giant light pattern that Wang Feng had manifested. It turned into a stream of light and attacked the boundless light pattern. At the moment of contact, that boundless image of light that seemed to encompass the entire world immediately shattered into countless fragments. You're just a god who had just become a false god. How dare you manifest your divine domain and power in front of this god? I'm very familiar with your aura. Looks like you're also a god from the crow god system, right? Last time, you let the death spirit god escape. This time, you dare to manifest your divine domain in front of me. Die. The mental fluctuation that was as huge as the galaxy converged with the spear and disappeared in the broken pattern. You're that native god? The moment the pattern shattered, an intermittent wave of mental energy gradually disappeared in the blink of an eye. The Do-Chi continent that seemed to have gone through an apocalypse seemed to have regained its calm. It was as if nothing had happened. In the ancestral realm, Wang Feng sneered. The gods of this god system universe are very weak. Yan Mengyao said with a serious face. He can't even take a single spear strike from Master. Is he seriously injured? Initially, I wanted to manifest my divine domain and directly kill you, Master. I didn't expect that I would encounter a tough opponent. As a spectator, Yan Mengyao watched very seriously. This god should be from the Crow Divine branch, said Wang Feng. Moreover, judging from the level of the manifested god domain, it should be very weak. He's much weaker than the god of death. The god of death was not a false god, but a heavenly god. After all, the gods who could play chess in the godly universe were not comparable to these fake gods who were still developing and conquering beliefs on a mere continent. Even the god of death couldn't take more than a few hits from Wang Feng, let alone a fake god. Moreover, the other party was obviously weaker. He didn't even have a powerful clan. Wang Feng didn't even sense a clan at the level of a wild species. This was several levels weaker than the fake god from the Donghuang Divine Branch. The fake god from the Donghuang Divine Branch not only had a wild species clan, but also a holy species clan. As for whether he had a spiritual paragon clan, it was not clear. Speaking of which, the fake god from the Donghuang Divine Branch was, after all, a representative of a divine branch, a peerless genius. Naturally, it was different. This fake god is probably the lowest kind of god in the Crow Divine Branch. Wang Feng shook his head and didn't care. It wasn't that he looked down on the Do-Chi continent. For a god at the level of the god of death, if he were to conquer the Do-Chi continent, he could almost directly bestow a divine imprint to all the creatures on the continent. He could almost completely seize beliefs in a breath. Why would he need to use this kind of slow process to bestow a divine imprint to a mere soul, then conquer the entire continent, find the chosen one, and cultivate it into a clan? There was still a big difference between a heavenly god and a fake god. Speaking of which, Xiao Sun-er and Xiao Yan are the chosen ones, right? Yan Mengyao whispered. The two chosen ones have produced the power of belief, so they should be very special, right? Special? Wang Feng shook his head. No matter how special it is, they are too weak after all. They are not as good as the great Qin world where Yingzheng was. Yingzheng was the combination of the Emperor and the Son of Heaven. In both history and the future, he possessed great potential. Although the great Qin world's power level is not high, far lower than the Do-Chi continent. End of chapter. Chapter 1786. At this moment, the divine light was majestic. Sun-er, this is, Xiao Yan obeyed Yao Lao's words, or rather, he obeyed his heart and hurriedly knelt down. Ancestor God, Xiao Sun-er said emotionally. It is the god that I mentioned. I didn't expect him to descend. Xiao Yan's heart shook. Even though he already knew the result, he was even more shocked when he heard Sun-er say it herself. At the same time, a few Doshings turned their eyes to the majestic light figure at the same time. Who are you? The leader of the Doshings stood in the air. His eyes focused as he asked in a deep voice. Are you trying to meddle in other people's business? He had already advanced to the Do-Shing class, but he had just begun to experience the wonderful feeling of being able to look down on the entire continent. At this moment, this Do-Shing felt an intense uneasiness in his heart. Attack! The Do-Shing who had charged out to capture Xiao Yan and Xiao Sun-er paused for a moment. It was as though he had received an order through voice transmission. He immediately grabbed at the two of them. A powerful Do-Chi ripple was released from this Do-Shing's body. A pair of bright light wings appeared behind this Do-Shing. It seemed to be some kind of mysterious martial technique. In an instant, time seemed to have stopped as he appeared in front of the two of them. Even Xiao Yan and Xiao Sun Er's expressions did not change at all. It was at this moment that a pair of calm eyes appeared from the figure in the majestic divine light. They were like the eyes of the heavens, staring at the sky. The boundless aura froze at this moment. That pair of eyes released a divine light. It was like an icy glare that caused the entire world to stop. It was like the anger of a god. At this moment, the few Do-Shings in Xiao Yan and Xiao Sun Er's eyes were like characters on a picture that had been erased with an eraser. It turned into endless dust and scattered in the sky. Then, with a gust of wind, it disappeared between heaven and earth. A couple of strange imprints appeared on the bodies of the Do-Shings who had disappeared. An intense light figure was formed in the sky. That light figure was boundless. The entire sky seemed to be unable to contain it. Within the pattern there was a boundless region. Within it there was a majestic palace. A majestic figure stood on top of it like a giant, exuding an aura that could shake the universe. At least, that was how Xiao Sun Er and Xiao Yan saw it. Xiao Yan thought that he had never seen a Do-Di before. However, he could tell that the divine figure standing above the palace in the light image was an expert who had surpassed a Do-Di. If nothing unexpected happened, it should be the master behind those few Do-Shings. They can't be from the soul race. Yao Lao was extremely shocked. Where did such a powerful existence come from? This is definitely not an expert from our continent. She knew about the Hun clan. Actually, when she saw the seriously injured Ling Ying and the few Do-Shings, she felt that something was wrong. Forget about the fact that the soul race had found him. There were only a few Do-Shings in the entire continent. Where did the Hun clan find so many Do-Shings? There must be a problem. Now it seems that the ancestor god has just finished off a few Do-Shings, but this person, could it be that he is also a god? I'm afraid I've caused a huge problem for the ancestor god. Xiao Sun Er thought to herself. At the same time, a mental fluctuation came from the boundary of the light pattern. How dare you? You even dare to wipe out this god's kin. You're courting death. The boundless mental fluctuation shattered the entire sky in an instant. Xiao Sun Er and Xiao Yan couldn't feel this mental fluctuation. Naturally, they couldn't decipher the meaning behind it. However, the light pattern shook. A pitch-black spear pierced through the void from the giant light pattern that Wang Feng had manifested. It turned into a stream of light and shot towards the boundless light pattern. At the moment of contact, that boundless image of light that seemed to encompass the entire world immediately shattered into countless fragments. You're just a new false god. How dare you show yourself in front of me with your puny divine domain and aura? I'm very familiar with your aura. It seems that you're also a god from the Crow god system? Last time, you let the Death Spirit god escape. This time, you dare to manifest your divine domain in front of me. Die. The mental fluctuation that was as huge as the galaxy converged with the spear. It disappeared in the broken pattern. You're that native god? At the moment when the pattern was broken, the intermittent mental fluctuation gradually disappeared in the blink of an eye. The Doomsday Do-Chi continent seemed to have returned to normal. As if nothing had happened. In the ancestral realm, Wang Feng sneered. The god from this god system universe is very weak. Yan Mengyao said with a serious face. He couldn't even withstand a single strike from Master. He must be seriously injured, right? I wanted to manifest my divine domain and kill you directly, but I didn't expect to meet a tough opponent. As a bystander, Yan Mengyao looked very serious. This god should be from the Crow god system, Wang Feng said. And from the level of his divine domain, He's very weak. He's much weaker than the Death Spirit God. The Death Spirit God wasn't a false god. He was a heavenly god. After all, a god that could play chess in a super-god system universe wasn't comparable to a false god that was still developing and conquering faith on a mere continent. The Death Spirit God couldn't even withstand a few strikes from Wang Feng, let alone a false god. And the other party was obviously weaker. He didn't even have a powerful clan. Wang Feng didn't even sense a wild breed. He was several levels weaker than the false god from the Donghuang god system. The false god from the Donghuang god system not only had a wild breed clan, but also a holy breed clan. As for whether he had a spiritual paragon clan, it wasn't clear. Speaking of which, the false god from the Donghuang god system was a representative of a god system, a peerless genius. Naturally, he was different. This false god is probably the lowest god in the Crow god system. Wang Feng shook his head and didn't care. It wasn't that he looked down on the Do-Chi continent. If a god like the Death Spirit God was to conquer the Do-Chi continent, he could almost directly bestow a divine seal to all the creatures on the continent. He could almost completely seize faith in a breath. Why would he need to slowly bestow a divine seal to a mere soul race, then conquer the entire continent, find the child of destiny, and cultivate them into a clan? There was a big difference between a heavenly god and a false god. Speaking of which, Xiao Sun Er and Xiao Yan are the children of destiny, right? Yan Mengyao whispered. The two children of destiny produce the power of faith. It should be very special, right? Special? Wang Feng shook his head. No matter how special it is, they are too weak after all. They are not as good as the great Qin world where Yingzheng was. Yingzheng was the combination of the emperor and the child of destiny. He had great potential in history and the future. Although the great Qin world's power level is not high, far lower than the Do-Chi continent, there was still a big difference between a heavenly god and a false god. Speaking of which, Xiao Sun Er and Xiao Yan are the children of destiny, right? Yan Mengyao whispered. The two children of destiny produce the power of faith. It should be very special, right? It wasn't that he looked down on the Do-Chi continent. If a god like the Death Spirit God was to conquer the Do-Chi continent, he could almost directly bestow a divine seal to all the creatures on the continent. He could seize faith in a breath. Chapter 1787. The Ancestral Realm. Wang Feng's palm moved slightly, and two special power of faith twisted slightly like spirals. These two power of faith naturally came from Xiao Yan and Xiao Suner. The thin strands of faith power were very small, but Wang Feng could feel a special aura. After all, they are the children of destiny of the world. Wang Feng shook his head slightly. After a moment of silence, the two disagreed with Yingzheng. Yingzheng was the emperor. With one order, he could easily make the whole country believe in him. In addition to the changes brought about by the star power, it was enough to produce enough power of faith in a short time. With the help of the chaotic green lotus, he could create the human path reincarnation of the 9 paths of reincarnation. These two power of faith, even with the help of the chaotic green lotus, would not be able to create another path of reincarnation. But as long as these two people grew up, it would be enough. The 2 diluted seeds of karmic fire are enough to let these 2 people grow quickly. Wang Feng thought to himself. He defeated that god. Naturally, all the descendants left behind by that god in the Do-Chi Dali would be restored to their original state. If nothing unexpected happened, the story should be on the right path. But the seeds of karmic fire would let these 2 people grow quickly. Wang Feng was not sure what would happen then. Oh right. The girl who is watching in the dark should be Nalin Yanran who came to cancel the engagement? Wang Fengxin suddenly thought of something. When he descended, Wang Feng sensed that there was a girl watching in the dark near Xiao Yan and Xiao Sun. She was not from the Xiao family, so it was very likely that she was Nalin Yanran who came to cancel the engagement. After thinking for a moment, Wang Feng shook his head slightly. But she doesn't know about the great Tao God summoning chapter. It is not possible for her to sense me. Wang Feng did not intend to pay too much attention to others. Xiao Yan and Xiao Suner alone were enough. According to Wang Feng's calculations, the power of faith they would produce in the future was enough to create another path of reincarnation. And it would not take too long. There was no need to cultivate more believers. Master, Master, come and see. At this moment, Yan Mengyao's call came. Amidst the clouds, Yan Mengyao excitedly pointed at an image of a halo formed by clouds. In the halo was the group of newly born humans. Wang Feng was slightly taken aback. The reason for that was because the number of people on the screen had increased from several tens to several hundred. How long has it been in the ancestral realm? Wang Feng asked. Probably less than 5 years, Yan Mengyao said. The river of time in the ancestral realm was very short, and Wang Feng could change the flow of time as he wished. In order to speed up development, Wang Feng compared the flow of time to the Douluo universe and sped it up a lot. So fast. Wang Feng was slightly stunned. Of course, Master. Isn't reincarnation established to accelerate the birth of the cycle of life? Yan Mengyao giggled. With the human Tao reincarnation and the strong reproductive ability of the human race, a few years is enough for them to give birth to many offspring. Moreover, they are humans created by you. Their offspring have extremely strong growth potential. In about a year, their bodies would grow from a child to a teenager, and in 2 years, they would become adult men. From a genetic point of view, their genes are too powerful. They are truly superhumans. Wang Feng nodded slightly. If one had to make an analogy, these humans were Super Saiyan level. Enlarge the screen and let me see, Wang Feng said. Yan Mengyao enlarged the screen. Like the center of the ancestral realm, she could see the changes in the ancestral realm from time to time. In the screen, a tall and sturdy man with a handsome face could be seen shuttling through the forest that was hundreds of meters high. Every jump could span hundreds of meters, and he was followed by several companions wearing the same clothes. They seemed to be hunting. The forest shook violently as if there was an earthquake. I remember that there shouldn't be any wild beasts in the ancestral realm now. What are they hunting? Wang Feng asked in surprise. There are no wild beasts in the ancestral realm, but you forgot that your little brothers are in this world. They created some large wild beasts with no intelligence to test the humans you created. Because we haven't established the reincarnation of the monster Tao, it's very difficult to give these wild beasts wisdom and reproduce. You can only rely on your little brothers to create them. Yan Mengyao said. Because they are created for fun, they don't have any intelligence. They only know how to kill, similar to toys. But the effect is good. With these toys, these humans grow very fast. In the beginning, even if these wild beasts were just toys, they were created by your little brothers and were very strong. In order to deal with these wild beasts, the human sovereign who was endowed with a special power of faith has created a simple cultivation method. He can already effectively use his body to resist these wild beasts. After 3 years, he can hunt wild beasts. The growth rate is too exaggerated. After listening to Yan Mengyao, only then did Wang Feng remember that his little brother's strength had reached a very strong level. He originally wanted to split the primal chaos green lotus into many treasures and bestow them to his little brothers. But later, he discovered that the primal chaos green lotus had a strong amplification effect on the power of faith, so he temporarily put it aside. Moreover, Wang Feng also experimented. The amplification effect of the primal chaos green lotus was limited to the power of faith and sacrifices mixed with the power of faith. Other external objects couldn't amplify it. For the current him, it was still very useful. So later, he didn't plan to split the primal chaos green lotus. With the strength of Qingqing and the others, they are already comparable to a first-rank god in the Douluo divine world. Although most of the creatures they created have no intelligence and are just toys, they are still very strong. If they were in a world like the Do-Chi continent, they might not be able to destroy heaven and earth, but they can still bring disaster to a place. These humans are just at the beginning stage, but they already have such great strength. The future is promising. Wang Feng nodded slightly. He was very satisfied with the creatures he created. Master, look. Yan Mengyao pointed at the image and said. The humans seemed to have finished their hunt and were preparing to return to their residence. The human sovereign easily caught the prey behind him with one hand. Even from the image, the size of the wild beast was dozens of times larger than the latter. It looked like an ant pulling an elephant. This wild beast, why does it look a little similar to Cowardly Kuan? Wang Feng rubbed his chin and said, Who made this wild beast? It seems to be that small crocodile. Yan Mengyao said. It looks so similar. Isn't he afraid that Cowardly Kuan will find trouble with him? Wang Feng laughed. Yan Mengyao thought for a moment and said, Previously, Cowardly Kuan also created a group of wild beasts that looked very similar to the small crocodile and named them chrysanthemum crocodiles. Wang Feng. End of chapter. Chapter 1788. So, these guys were using this method to hurt each other, right? Wang Feng couldn't help but laugh. However, with the relationship between these guys, it was probably just for fun. Master, look, they are going to worship their god. Yan Mengyao pointed at the image and said, Every time after a successful hunt, the human sovereign would bring his clansmen to worship you, the Father God. They think that this is a gift from you. Wang Feng followed the image and looked over. Sure enough, after the human sovereign returned to his residence, he brought his clansmen to the place of worship. The place where they lived was very simple. It was a small cave made of simple stones. However, the place of worship was built on a large scale. There was a crystal-clear jade pillar in all directions. It was about 10 meters tall. It was unknown what material it was made of. However, to these humans living in the cave, it must be extremely precious. In the center there was a statue. Wang Feng looked at it and found that it was indeed his appearance. However, the carving was very ordinary. It didn't even depict 30% of his appearance. At this moment, the human sovereign first cut off the beast's head and placed it under the statue to show how precious it was. Wang Feng watched the whole process of the worship. In fact, it wasn't complicated. For these newborn humans, the process was very simple. However, it was especially solemn. In addition to the beast, there were many items that they had collected and thought were very precious. They would use some of them as offerings. I have accepted the offerings for you, Master, Yan Mengyao said. Strands of extremely pure power of faith condensed from each of them and gathered in the statue. What pure power of faith? Wang Feng whispered. Of course, you are their Father God. In their hearts, you are the greatest existence since birth. Moreover, they are the first generation of humans. Yan Mengyao said, Although the power of faith is very weak, it is very pure. Wang Feng sighed and gently waved his hand. First, the power of faith was injected into the chaotic green lotus. After the power of faith was increased, 1/10 of it was cut off and changed through the origin energy. The divine power was processed and turned into rich energy of heaven and earth. It was injected into the statue. The next moment, after the worship was finished, the statue shone brightly and emitted a burst of energy rain. It fell into the bodies of every human. It cleansed and repaired their bodies. At the same time, Wang Feng processed the 2 strands of faith power that he had obtained from Xiao Yan and Xiao Sun respectively. It was injected into the 2 humans beside the human sovereign. These 2 were the left and right arms of the human emperor. During the hunt, they had assisted the human emperor in killing the wild beast. In an instant, the auras of the 2 humans underwent a drastic change. Master, what are you doing? Yan Mengyao was slightly stunned, and the next moment she opened her mouth wide. The aptitude of these two people is increasing rapidly. 2 golden rays of light rose from their bodies. As expected, Wang Feng smiled faintly. The power of faith produced by these children of destiny, after being processed by divine power, can actually improve the aptitude of the human race that I created. It can even produce some powerful characteristics. In the ancient system of the divine system, this is actually the correct way to cultivate the most special and powerful soul supremes among the gods' minions. But now, the life of the divine system, in order to pursue speed, most of them choose to directly develop the children of destiny from different worlds into their own soul supremes. And they neglect to create their own because it takes a lot of time and energy. Moreover, their power of faith is not enough. In the history of the divine system universe, this method, which had already been eliminated, had a huge flaw in comparison. Using the power of faith produced by the children of destiny to give to the life created by oneself can improve the aptitude of these life forms, and they will definitely become great in the future. One of the main reasons why it was eliminated is that the aptitude ratio is very low. According to the information of the divine system universe obtained from the Crimson God Fox Emperor, at least 100 children of destiny are needed to produce the power of faith to improve the aptitude of one's own creation. Therefore, the gods of the modern divine system universe think that this method is too old. Although the life created by oneself is extremely powerful and doesn't even need divine power imprint, even if the god is dead. These life forms created by oneself are still very powerful and won't die with the god. Their potential is endless. But the power of faith produced by 100 children of destiny is enough to let a god, who has just opened up a divine domain, immediately become a pseudo-god. Below pseudo-gods are pseudo-gods. And according to the size of the divine domain and the overall evaluation of the number of minions one has, pseudo-gods have 10 levels. It is too wasteful to use such a huge amount of power of faith to improve the aptitude of one god to create a life. God creating a life refers to the life created by the god himself. Moreover, directly cultivating the children of destiny into their own soul supremes would also allow one to obtain a life with the same aptitude. Then why do they have to create their own life and waste the power of faith and their own divine power to cultivate it? Although directly cultivating the children of destiny requires leaving behind a divine power imprint so that the thoughts of these children of destiny will be solidified and they will die with the god, it doesn't affect their strength. Naturally, this method of nurturing a clan tribe was eliminated. And this kind of ancient method is called divine method imparting Tao in the divine system universe. The power of faith is useless to me because I don't follow the system of the divine system universe. On the contrary, this kind of ancient method is very beneficial to the ancestral realm. Coupled with the increase of the Chaos Green Lotus, it means that I don't have to get the power of faith of a child of destiny to improve their aptitude. From the vision when the human emperor was born, Wang Feng roughly thought that this kind of ancient method that was eliminated by the divine system universe is the most suitable for him. Now it seems that it is true. For example, it is like in a game, the passerby NPC with a white name is directly promoted to purple, red, and other special NPCs. The change brought by this kind of promotion of aptitude is extremely huge. If it is in the divine system universe, it is directly promoted from a wild species to a holy species, and in the future, it can also become a soul supremes. It was unknown how many grades there were between them. Among the desolate breed clan races, there were 108 different grades in the god system universe. It is not just a name. At the same time, accompanied by the statue of himself, a miracle was sent down. Every single human was cheering excitedly. This is a miracle sent down by the Father God. To them, this is the Father God's response. The human race is already on the right track. Wang Feng pinched his chin slightly. Next, we have to prepare for the next reincarnation. The ancestral realm can't only have the human race. In the chat group, other than Ingzheng, there is this condition to quickly produce a large amount of power of faith. End of chapter. Chapter 1789. In the chat group, to Shi Ancient Emperor Jade. Everyone, I announce that from today onwards, I am also a believer of the ancestor god. Happy. JPG. Fan Yi. Yangon Pon. Borrowing 10,000 years from the heavens. Congratulations. So, did the ancestor god also descend to your world? Can't betray me. How did you do it? I also chanted the great Tao God summoning chapter, but it didn't seem to have any effect. I even built an altar and planned to use some sacrificial offerings. Did you sacrifice some powerful items to the ancestor god? To Shi Ancient Emperor Jade. No, I just sincerely chanted the great Tao God summoning chapter and the ancestor god descended. Obedient. JPG. Next, I will have to work hard. When I become strong, I will repay the ancestor god's favor. Striving. JPG. Hearing this, in the chat group, everyone had different expressions. They sent out different emoticons to express their complicated feelings. In the Three Kingdoms world, Cao Cao was stunned. Sincerely chanted, "Am I not sincere enough?" Cao Cao couldn't help but think. In the first video that 10,000 years ago, Cao Cao had seen how terrifying the ancestor god was. He had chanted the great Tao God summoning chapter more than once, but it didn't have any effect. Not only did it not have any effect, but it also made him feel a little dazed. Prime Minister, the battle plan has been prepared. Today is the day you make the oath. The three armies are all waiting. Outside the tent, a middle-aged man wearing a scholar's robe walked in and said in a low voice. The middle-aged man's eyes were bright and full of spirit. One look and one could tell that he was an extremely intelligent person. Cao Cao didn't reply. At this moment, he was still paying attention to the chat group. The middle-aged man frowned slightly. These few days, the Prime Minister didn't seem to be in the right state. But now that the battle was imminent, such a state was worrying. The Prime Minister has been nagging about some god. When did the Prime Minister start to believe in such things? When the middle-aged man thought of this, his eyes trembled and he let out a loud voice. Prime Minister, wake up! This voice was like a drum from the 9 heavens. It was like an invisible sound wave that spread out in all directions. A dazzling light lit up all around the tent, as if it was some kind of protective profound formation. Cao Cao's entire body shuddered. He suddenly reacted from the chat group and looked at the person who came. Only then did he let out a sigh of relief. Sun Yu, I thought there was an assassin. I say, you don't have to use this kind of mysterious technique to wake me up, right? In this world, civil officials cultivated profound techniques, while military generals cultivated martial arts. They could split mountains and split the earth, split rivers and overturn seas. Prime Minister, it's time for the oath of allegiance. Are we still going to fight? Sun Yu said solemnly, although we have a huge advantage, our army gathered at Red Cliff to fight Sun Quan and Liu Bei. If we win, the southern territories will belong to our great Han dynasty. If we lose, our vitality will be greatly damaged and we won't be able to start another war for a few years. How can the Prime Minister be distracted by the importance of this battle? Cao Cao coughed twice. He wasn't distracted. Speaking of which, I don't seem to need the ancestor god. Cao Cao suddenly thought. Right now I have victory in my hands. That kid Fan Yi said that I will lose at Red Cliff. That's in the history he knows. But that kid Fan Ye's world is not on the same level as mine. This Red Cliff is not a problem for my army. The Battle of Red Cliff. Cao Cao and Yi Fan talked about it before. He also understood that in the history of Yi Fan's world, the Sun Lu alliance defeated him at Red Cliff in a classic battle. Cao Cao studied for a long time before he realized that the history of Yi Fan's world was different from his. There were a few reasons for the defeat of the Battle of Red Cliff. However, Cao Cao gathered many strategists, and after studying it, he realized that these reasons were impossible. For example, Cao Cao was from the north and his army was mainly cavalry. When he came to the river, he didn't have a navy and the cavalry's combat ability was very low. If they were infantry, they naturally couldn't be compared to the Sun Shi group's navy. However, the truth was, the soldiers under Cao Cao's command were indeed mainly cavalry. But sorry, cavalry wasn't ordinary cavalry. Their horses weren't normal horses but mysterious blood feather horses that could fly for a short period of time. Moreover, the soldiers all cultivated special techniques that allowed them to resist water. Before going down south, the soldiers were all trained so they weren't afraid of fighting on water. Similarly, they wouldn't be unable to adapt to the environment. Soldiers who cultivated martial techniques could even not eat or drink for 3 days and 3 nights. Why would they be unable to adapt to the environment and cause their combat strength to drop so quickly? As for fire attacks, that was even more impossible. Cao Cao heard that Liu Bei's Zhuge Liang and Sun Quan's Zhou Yu and Lu Su were all high-grade Xian cultivators who were good at the 8 technique. They could truly summon the wind and rain, and could even summon the blazing sun and fire, and could burn everything. Many of the soldiers with low martial arts cultivation couldn't resist this kind of burning fire. In the past, the soldiers under him had all suffered losses. This was why before he went down south, he and his strategists were fully prepared. Cao Cao walked out and looked at the blazing sun in the sky. He couldn't help but laugh. Unless Zhuge Liang can summon this sun god fire. Cao Cao laughed. Otherwise, with my elite soldiers, it's impossible to use fire attacks. However, the sun god fire was a flame of that level. Even the experts of their world couldn't easily summon it. Even if they could, unless it covered a huge area, with the size and numbers of his army, it wouldn't be able to cause a strategic blow and heavy damage. Maybe it's because I have victory in my hands. So, I'm more curious than sincere about the descent of the ancestor god, Cao Cao thought to himself. He seemed to have understood something. Cao Cao couldn't help but laugh. That's right. The ancestor god is such a powerful existence. Even this world might not be worth mentioning to him. But my strength is enough to sweep the world. Why would I need the descent of the ancestor god? Sun Yu. Let's go, follow me to swear an oath. Prepare for war. Cao Cao thought this through and put the matter of the ancestor god aside. He was a hero of a generation. At this moment, his aura was at its peak. Although he had seen great power, he was on the side of the strong, not the weak side like Ying Jing. He didn't have a strong desire for the ancestor god. He even understood that the reason he chanted the scripture was because of curiosity rather than sincerity. Sun Yu nodded slightly and walked out with Cao Cao. Ding. She Ancient Emperor Jade uploaded a video. At this moment, Cao Cao heard a voice from the chat group. It must be a video of the ancestor god showing his might, Cao Cao said worriedly. Damn, I want to watch it. Forget it, I'll watch it after we win the war. Anyway, this war should end very quickly. A confident smile appeared on Cao Cao's face. In the chat group, Fan Yi, damn, Ancient Emperor Jade, are the experts of your world so powerful? To be able to fly in the sky, they must be at least 100 meters high, right? Also, what are the wings on the back of those battle saints? They look very cool. She Ancient Emperor Jade, that's nothing. If a battle saint is compared to your world, they can easily destroy a city. The nuclear bombs of your world might not be able to cause any obvious damage to them. Fan Yi, Yangon Pawn Shop's worker. I recently learned some immortal arts. Someone taught me. But in comparison, I feel that those battle saints can kill me with one finger. In the video, how were they killed by the ancestor god? I saw everything. They seemed to have disappeared. The few of them were watching the video that Xiao Sun uploaded. Borrowing 10,000 years from the heavens. I don't understand how the ancestor god did it too. She ancient Emperor Jade. This, shameful. JPG. I don't understand it either. End of chapter. Chapter 1790. Everyone. F***K, you are from that world too. You actually can't understand it? Fan Yi. Based on my analysis, the ancestor god might have killed those few battle sages through the rules. Yangon Pawn. What do you mean by the rules? I don't understand. Can you explain? Fan Yi. It is very troublesome to explain. Every world has its own rules. Do you know what it means to have laws following words? It means that whatever he says is the rules of this world. If he wants someone to die, he only needs to say a word. This is the method of a true god. Everyone. Oh. Borrow 10,000 years from the heavens. Brother Fan Yi, I remember that you are not a cultivator. Why do you know so much? Could it be that you are also a hidden god? Fan Yi, cough cough. I just read a lot of books. Although I am not a god, it doesn't stop me from making blind guesses. Comic. JPG. Everyone. To she ancient Emperor Jade. I understand now. No wonder. Usually, the fights between the experts on our side would be earth-shattering. These battle sages are the top experts on the continent. They disappeared without a trace. This method is too unimaginable. Perhaps it is only when you speak of the law that I am able to understand a little. Fan Yi, but I don't understand the latter part. After those battle sages died, what is the special light picture that covered the entire sky? It feels even more terrifying and grand. It is hard to guess. The ancestor god seems to have used a special power to destroy it. Is he also an expert from your world? To she ancient Emperor Jade. No, he is not. The strongest person here is a Dodi, although it has been many years since a Dodi has appeared. Even though there has been a battle emperor for a long time, battle emperors have not reached that level. That light picture should be an expert that has transcended our world. He should be the mastermind behind the evil soul race. The gods of the God system universe were too far away from them. It was naturally hard to know. Not to mention knowing, it was hard to even think about it. Wang Feng shook his head slightly and didn't interrupt. He would let them talk among themselves. Where did Cao Cao go? Wang Feng took a look. He realized that no one in the world can betray him, but he didn't say anything. This shouldn't be. Wang Feng had actually sensed Cao Cao's chanting. However, the level of the chanting was so weak that it couldn't even produce the power of faith. Therefore, Wang Feng did not descend to Cao Cao's world. Since Cao Cao could not produce the power of faith, it meant that Cao Cao did not need him to fulfill any of his conditions, nor did he have any offerings. Naturally, Wang Feng would not casually descend. Although Wang Feng did not directly use the divine power imprint method to directly turn these group members into his believers, however, sincerity was still needed. Wang Feng was not in a hurry. Ding. Ghostly has joined the chat group. Another voice rang out in the chat group. Fan Yi, another newcomer is here. Ghostly, this name is unlucky. The waiter of Yong and pawn shop, Tisk Tsk, who would give themselves such a name. Newbie, quick, show me your photo. How much money do you have? Which world are you from? The chat group was silent. The newcomer did not seem to answer. Wang Feng seemed to be even quieter than before. Ghostly. Wang Feng was slightly stunned. He knew that. Isn't that the main character of Zhu Xian's world? Yan Qingjue could do it. The chosen one that Yan Qingjue pulled over seems to be someone that I know. Even my heart. Wang Feng smiled. Thinking of this, Wang Feng suddenly had a thought. Cao Cao seems to have reacted? Since he is so sincere, it seems like he is in trouble. A strong call was transmitted into Wang Feng's mind. Three Kingdoms World. Red Cliff. Above the sky, a giant palm descended from the sky. Below it were the waves of Red Cliff. Warships were linked together, moving on the river's surface in an orderly manner. What is that? Chow Chow, who was on the main ship, looked at the giant palm and was stunned. Beside him, Sun Yu's expression changed. Prime Minister, that giant palm is covering. That giant palm seemed to cover the sky. It had completely surpassed the grade of martial arts. Even the strongest war god, Lu Bu, who could split half of Red Cliff with a halberd, was unable to execute such a giant palm. It covered hundreds of thousands of his army. Moreover, that giant palm was covered with torrential flames. Chow Chow's pupils constricted. That is the true sun flame. Impossible, this is definitely impossible. Chow Chow's eyes were filled with shock. This is definitely not something those strategists like Zhuge Liang can use. However, the moment he said those words, the giant palm also landed. It pretty much did not give Chow Chow any time to react. Hong Long. In an instant, the entire Red Cliff River was set ablaze. It was like it had evaporated, giving off endless steam. Hundreds of thousands of troops, including the warships, were wiped out in an instant. The scene was so shocking that it nearly stunned Chow Chow. Only a few generals with extremely high martial arts cultivation managed to survive. Flames covered the sky. The true sun flame that could not be used up was enough to burn everything to ashes. The true sun flame that was hundreds of feet high was not something that Chow Chow's warships and soldiers could handle. Prime Minister, retreat! Sun Yu hollered, immediately surrounding Chow Chow with the other strategists. At this moment, numerous people flew over from all directions. Chow Mingda, you will definitely die here today. Chow Chow, this Red Cliff is the final destination of your dog. Die. In the air and in the steam, there were countless figures like heavenly soldiers and heavenly generals. They were not riding horses, but rather, they were controlling the flow of water. They were really special. Amongst them, there were a few strong auras that made the generals on Chow Chow's side feel terrified. Just now, the giant palm that suddenly descended had wiped out the hundreds of thousands of elite troops that Chow Chow was so proud of. Now, these Sun and Lu soldiers who had taken advantage of the situation to attack clearly knew the situation. Chow Chow took 2 steps back and stared at these fellows. He could not catch his breath and felt something sweet in his throat. He nearly spat out blood. This is definitely not the power of our world. Jerk. Chow Chow thought calmly. It must be the Sun and Lu side working together. Wait, let me see. Chow Chow looked around. He noticed that only a few of the Sun and Lu soldiers came. There was no one else. No, I cannot lose here. Chow Chow came back to his senses and suddenly faced a huge change. If it was before, he felt that he might have died. However, after joining the chat group, his knowledge had broadened. At this moment, he was still clear-headed. Chow Chow looked at his subordinates, whose faces were all ashen, and his eyes slowly became firm. He took in a deep breath. Ancestor God, only Ancestor God can help me escape from this situation. Chapter 1791. Lord? Lord? Sun Yu's face was ashen as he shouted at Chow Chow. However, Chow Chow did not react at all. It was like he was scared silly. Sun Yu sighed. No matter how much he thought about it, he had never considered this step. Prime Minister, I will open a path for you. A one-eyed general at the side coldly said. Sun Yu kept silent. Given the current situation, it was almost impossible to carve out a path of blood. Under that palm, hundreds of thousands of troops were wiped out. The remaining soldiers could not even fight their way out. Whether or not they could survive in this scorching essence sunfire was a problem. Furthermore, the enemy had not even attacked yet. Sun Yu shook his head. In such a situation, they had no chance at all. That palm had obviously exceeded the limit of this world. Who knew how the Sun Lu Alliance army did it? Furthermore, the experts of this world could not control such blazing and huge sun flames. The water of the red cliff evaporated along with the blazing flames, leaving behind a long gully. Countless ships were reduced to ashes, and some of them were even mixed with the faintly glowing ashes. Sun Yu raised his head and looked into the distance. He could only see rows of soldiers in the air. That was the Jiangdong overturning navy, the elites of the elite. The general leading them was Jiangdong's famous general, Taisher Ci. From all directions, over 10 generals had surrounded this warship, which was barely able to resist the essence sun fire. Sun Yu could also sense a few mystic cultivators with special identities, such as Zhou Yu from River East, Lu Su, and Zhuge Liang, who was known as the Crouching Dragon, were all watching from afar. However, they did not attack. They just waited for the sun flames to burn the defensive energy shield outside the warship. Like a flame beast, it was slowly eating away. Dong. Just at that moment, Cao Cao suddenly knelt down. He half knelt on the deck. His expression was calm and sincere. However, his brows were trembling like he had lost his mind. Sun Yu sighed once more. It was already good that Lord did not break down in such a situation. He looked back and found that most of the remaining soldiers, even if they had survived for the time being, had ashen faces. There was still a bit of confusion in his eyes. It was as if he had no idea what had happened to suddenly become like this. Sun Yu's eyes gradually turned blank. He looked at the surging sea of fire around him and closed his eyes, powerless to reverse the situation. These 4 words oppressed all the officers and soldiers, making it hard for them to breathe. At this moment, Cao Cao felt a sense of tranquility that he had never felt before after reciting the great Tao summoning of the gods. There were no longer any external disturbances to his mind. At the critical juncture of life and death, Cao Cao only had the ancestor god in his mind. Unity of will and spirit. Because of that, a person of his status could generate the power of faith. In an instant, Cao Cao seemed to have seen an infinitely mighty figure, emitting a supreme radiance. In his mind, it was as boundless as the stars in the universe. Boom! In the next moment, 2 beams of godly light descended from the sky. I understand your request. The majestic divine voice resounded in Cao Cao's mind. Cao Cao suddenly opened his eyes. At the same time, Sun Yu also opened his eyes and looked at the horizon with a blank expression. The first beam of godly light descended, and the boiling essence sun fire in the Red Cliff River was instantly extinguished. The fog dissipated, and it was like the dark clouds parted to reveal the moon. The entire world became clear. Cao Cao took a deep breath, and his body trembled. The essence sun fire had been extinguished. At the same time, the second beam of godly light descended. It landed on the entire red cliff. Cao Cao was stunned. Countless specks of light flashed around as if they were gathering something. In the blink of an eye, a soldier appeared in front of him. Shwa! 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 Countless soldiers appeared in front of him. The warships that were burned to ashes by the essence sun fire seemed to have returned to normal. The soldiers that were burned to ashes, hundreds of thousands of soldiers, had miraculously revived and appeared in front of Cao Cao. Prime Minister, what's going on? Sun Yu exclaimed in shock. What's going on? The remaining generals were also dumbfounded, as if they were in a dream. This is impossible. I must be dreaming. A general held his head, unable to believe the situation in front of him. This was too unbelievable. Not only them, but the Sun Lu army that was riding on the water was also stunned. In the distance, on a warship. Illusion. This is an illusion. A handsome man who held a feather fan and wore a silk scarf suddenly took a deep breath and muttered, "Brother Zhuge, this is not an illusion. I can sense their life force." Beside the man, a handsome man with a sword at his waist said slowly, "They really came back to life. Under the essence sun fire, everything will turn to ashes." "How can they come back to life?" This is not logical, resurrecting the dead is impossible. Zhuge Liang closed his eyes and was silent for a long time. He looked at Zhou Yu and seemed to understand something. The descent of the godly palm is also not logical. Zhou Yu whispered. That is the will and power of the High God. But even the High God can't revive so many soldiers in an instant. Even the warships are in perfect condition. Restoring them is much harder than destroying them. We paid such a huge price. Zhou Yu looked at the sky with a complicated gaze. In the sky where the two beams of divine light landed, there was an eternal shadow of light that was flickering in and out of existence. I didn't expect Cao Cao to have the aura of a high god. Zhuge Liang sighed. To such a high god we are just ants. Laughable, lamentable. Zhou Yu also sighed. They had lost this battle. But the price they paid was too high. A few days ago, he and Zhuge Liang decided to work together to defeat Cao Cao's army at Red Cliff. However, after thinking about it and comparing the strength of both sides, they realized that they had no chance of winning. At this time, a mysterious being who called himself a high god said that he had a way to help them defeat Cao Cao's army. The condition was that they had to sacrifice some life to serve the high god. At the same time, they had to establish a sect of the high god to worship him. At first, the two did not believe it. However, this high god had the power to reach the heavens. With just a raise of his hand, he could easily overturn the entire Red Cliff River. After everything was confirmed, the godly palm descended and defeated Cao Cao's army. However, on the other side, Cao Cao looked at the sky excitedly. The ancestor god is awesome. From the moment he summoned the ancestor god, Cao Cao was wondering how the ancestor god would act. At the very least, he would be able to survive, right? Or maybe he would just destroy the Sun Lu army. Chapter 1792. However, after Cao Cao watched the video from 10,000 years ago, he realized that the ancestor god would not interfere with the battle between believers. For example, 10,000 years ago, the ancestor god only changed the world and increased the strength of the great Qin Empire. However, he did not kill the demons with one palm. Cao Cao believed that the ancestor god had the strength to do so. However, the ancestor god did not do so. Therefore, Cao Cao thought that the ancestor god would not destroy the Sun Lu alliance with one palm. Naturally, Cao Cao believed that the ancestor god would save him. It would be best if the ancestor god could bestow upon him a special power that would allow him to rise again. However, he did not expect the ancestor god to revive his hundreds of thousands of soldiers. Damn it. This is a miracle. We have the help of the gods. There is no way we can lose this battle. Officers and soldiers, kill them all. Cao Cao shouted excitedly. Using this opportunity, the hundreds of thousands of soldiers who had just been revived were still in a daze. Cao Cao's voice seemed to be strengthened by his eyes. It was louder than thunder and sounded like a drum. It made most of the revived soldiers' blood boil. At this moment they had easily destroyed the Sun Lu Alliance army in an unstoppable manner. They did not even have the ability to resist. There was no other way. The revival of hundreds of thousands of soldiers was too much of a blow to their morale. The alliance did not even have the will to fight. Until the setting sun was like blood. Cao Cao looked forward with a face full of blood. Is this the power of the ancestor god? Cao Cao muttered. At this moment, he could feel why 10,000 years ago was so excited. With a wave of his hand, the entire world changed. Cao Cao had experienced 10,000 years ago's world from a first-person perspective. He could say without hesitation that there was a big difference. However, he did not expect the ancestor god to revive hundreds of thousands of soldiers so easily. How powerful was the ancestor god? Cao Cao suddenly quivered. Just thinking about it made him feel terrified. Such great kindness. Cao Cao closed his eyes and rested for a moment. I don't know how to repay him. Just establishing a religion is far from enough. 10,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, used demon blood as a sacrifice. Do I have to use blood as a sacrifice too? Chow Chow thought for a long time. He felt that it was too tacky to just use blood as a sacrifice. Moreover, 10,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, had already used blood as a sacrifice. I wonder if the ancestral god has any other hobbies. Chow Chow felt that the gods were too powerful and it was difficult to guess. Even after racking his brain for a long time, he was still unable to come up with anything. However, Chow Chow was not in a hurry. The offerings only represented sincerity. To the ancestor god, the offerings might eventually be returned to him. Chow Chow had been envious of Brother 10,000 Years' dragon robe ever since he saw it. We'll talk about it when the time comes, my lord. Once I win this battle, the entire land of River East will be in my hands. The world is just around the corner, Sun Yu said in a tired yet excited manner. Chow Chow smiled and waved his hand. Wen Ruo, calm down. My lord, just now. Sun Yu thought for a moment and still wanted to ask. God, Chow Chow said bluntly and slowly, true God. At that moment, I prayed to the true God to descend and help me, Chow Chow, overcome this crisis. God? Sun Yu's eyes gradually became clear, but his tone was somewhat incredulous. There are only true gods in this world? Of course I do. If I don't believe it, then I naturally don't. Chow Chow laughed loudly. But I believe it. That's why the true God has descended. From now on, I, Chow Chow, will believe in the name of the ancestor god. Ancestor god. Sun Yu murmured and his body trembled. It was as if he could feel a great existence staring at him from the distant void, causing him to involuntarily feel as if he was looking up at the vastness of the universe. Ancestral realm. Master, this Chow Chow's world seems to have been tainted by a god. Yan Mengyao said. As someone who had seen the whole scene, she naturally saw the origin of the giant palm that contained the sun's essence fire. It was impossible for the experts in Chow Chow's world to have done it. The universe of gods is currently in the universe hunt, Wang Feng said lightly. It's normal for these worlds to be tainted by some gods. However, looking at the power of that palm, this god's strength is ordinary. He's not even comparable to a fake god. He's about the same as the god who tainted the Do-Chi continent. However, he can control the sun's essence fire at will. The opponent's god should be a god from the Skyflame god system. The gods of the Skyflame god system are all gods who play with fire. They have all kinds of powerful fire origins and several kinds of great Tao of will. It's not very powerful. Wang Feng naturally didn't care about the sun's essence fire. Moreover, the strength of this tainted god was limited. He might only be a little stronger than the demon god of the dark demon world. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been unable to control the power of that palm and be unable to destroy Chow Chow's army. As for resurrecting the hundreds of thousands of soldiers, the ability to resurrect life depended on the strength of the life in different worlds. The difficulty was actually different. However, no matter what was resurrected, in essence, it went against the universe's reincarnation will. However, the weaker the life, the more insignificant it was to the universe's reincarnation will. As long as one had enough godly power, one could resurrect life through a special origin. Universe-level life forms basically had the ability to resurrect others. However, this resurrection was limited. The most important thing was that the time of death of these soldiers was too short. Wang Feng didn't even use too much godly power to resurrect them. Compared to changing the river of time, resurrecting them was easier. If they had been dead for a long time and their souls were almost gone, it would take a little effort to resurrect them. Next, I just need to wait for the power of faith from Chow Chow's side. Wang Feng sighed. The universe hunt in the God System's universe gave him some opportunities. It sped up the process a little. Otherwise, an ambitious and ruthless person like Cao Cao, who was also one of the strongest in that world, would not be able to do anything. It would take a long time for him to generate the power of faith. Next, let's first establish the path of monster reincarnation. Wang Feng pondered for a moment. The human race was developing very fast because Yan Mengyao was watching the flow of time. However, accelerating the flow of time also required a lot of power of faith. Fortunately, Wang Feng still had a stable source of power of faith in this area. He could maintain the state of accelerating time in the ancestral realm. This kind of acceleration was relative to the entire universe. For the life forms in the ancestral realm, they couldn't feel the acceleration of time. In the system of the God Systems universe, whether it's the ancient system or the antecedent system, they can't be separated from the power of faith. They need it in all aspects, Wang Feng sighed with emotion. At the same time, in the chat group, people don't betray me. Ancestor God is awesome. Excited. JPG. As soon as this sentence came out, it immediately surprised the other members of the group. One had to know that Cao Cao had always been very steady and calm in the chat group. Even after watching the video of the Ancestor God's miracle, they were shocked. However, they didn't lose themselves in excitement like this. End of chapter. Chapter 1793. Fan Yi, what happened? Brother Cao, you were lurking just now. Let me guess, have you lost to Huarong Dao? Yi Fan was the only one in the chat group who knew about Cao Cao's history. Although it was a parallel world of the three high martial kingdoms, Yi Fan felt that the history should be similar. However, just as he finished speaking, Yi Fan suddenly realized that something was wrong. Fan Yi, wait, Ancestor God? Brother Cao, you can't be. Yangon Pon, Huarong Dao? What is that place? Is it related to the Ancestor God? Tu Shi Ancient Emperor Jade. Brother under heaven, the Ancestor God also descended to your world? Did something happen? Curious. JPG. Borrow from heaven another 10,000 years. You are so excited. Could it be that you encountered the same thing as me? Yangon Pon. Brother, hurry up and tell us. Don't run out of breath after shouting one sentence. It's not good to keep people in suspense like this. You have to learn from Tu Shi Ancient Emperor Jade. Tell us everything about the Ancestor God. Cao Cao's sentence was really good at keeping people in suspense. However, he didn't continue. This made the people in the chat group laugh and scold him. Fan Yi, to be able to make you lose your composure like this. TSK, I really don't know what happened. But based on my conjecture, this must be related to the Battle of Red Cliff, right? Tu Shi Ancient Emperor Jade. Fan Yi, what Battle of Red Cliff? Is it related to Brother Under Heaven? Fan Yi, do you know what happened? Fan Yi, I know a little. No one under heaven can't betray me, and borrow from heaven another 10,000 years came from a similar world. However, because they are parallel universes, the world they are in is a little different from the history I am familiar with. Yangon Pon. Fan Yi, tell me about it. What is the background of the Brother Cao you are talking about, Brother Under Heaven? Fan Yi. In short, the era Brother Cao is in is the last years of the Empire. It is the era where the three major powers are at their peak. Brother Cao was one of the most powerful forces among them. The Battle of Red Cliff is a crucial battle between him and the other two powers. If you win, old Brother Cao can basically unify the chaotic times of Dynasty's last years and realize his great cause. Tu Shi Ancient Emperor's Jade. I see. Fan Yi said, in my world of normal history, old Brother Cao was defeated. Another 10,000 years from heaven, but didn't their world change? The history that you are familiar with cannot be applied. Fan Yi said, that is indeed the case. Old Brother Cao and I have talked in private before. I have analyzed that the level of power in their world is very high, so much so that the cause of defeat in the Battle of Red Cliff that I am familiar with cannot be produced. Therefore, Brother Chow has a high chance of winning this war. Eternal Peace Pawn's Waiter. No wonder Big Brother under Heaven's tone has always been very domineering. What a domineering name. Fan Yi said, from the looks of it, old Brother Chow should have one. But it doesn't seem that winning is that simple. It definitely has something to do with the ancestor god. Based on my guess, something unexpected might have happened in that world. Brother Chow had no choice but to summon the ancestor god to help him. According to the history that I know, Elder Brother Chow was going to be defeated and leave Huarong Dao. However, the world that Elder Brother Chow was in was too powerful. I'm afraid that there was no chance for him to leave. I reckon that the ancestor god had descended and saved his life. With the ancestor god's help, Elder Brother Chow should be able to make a comeback. Yi Fan analyzed according to his own train of thought and felt that it was most likely the case. Eternal Peace Pawn's Waiter. Since the ancestor god has descended, why didn't Elder Brother Chow ask the ancestor god to help him destroy the two major factions? Wouldn't that be better? To She Ancient Emperor's Jade. Waiter, your thinking is too simple. Think about it carefully. Every time the ancestor god descends, he rarely changes the situation of our world. Otherwise, back then, old Brother 10,000 Years would have asked the ancestor god to directly destroy those demons and devils. Why would he need to personally destroy those demons and devils? There is also my world. With the ancestor god's strength, it would be easy for him to destroy the evil soul race. However, he did not do so. The ancestor god would not casually interfere with the world of us believers. He would only give us a certain amount of help and hope that we can complete the mission that belongs to us. Borrowing another 10,000 years from heaven. That's right. That is indeed the case. The ancestor god has the intention to nurture us. If our enemies and opponents are all easily killed by the ancestor god, then what's the use of us? Moreover, letting the ancestor god deal with our enemies and opponents is not in line with his identity. Not to mention the ancestor god, even I would not allow myself to do so. Eternal Peace Pawn's Waiter. So that's the case. I understand now. I was wondering why there was no effect when I chanted the Great Tao God Summoning chapter. It turns out that I don't need the ancestor god to descend. The ancestor god would not casually help me either. Sigh, my dream of becoming the richest man is shattered just like that. I don't know how long it will take for me to become the richest man in Yuzhou on my own. Borrowing from the heavens another 10,000 years. Waiter, it's just the richest man. It's actually very easy to achieve. I can directly give you some antiques and you will become the richest man. Do you believe me? I can even fulfill such a small wish. The ancestor god would probably not care about you. You have to set your sights further. Eternal Peace Pawn's Waiter. Speaking of which, where is Big Brother beneath the heavens? At this moment. Ding. World Can't Betray Me uploaded a video. Hearing this voice, everyone knew that the main character had arrived. World Can't Betray Me. The video has been uploaded. I will show you how powerful the ancestor god is. Proud. JPG. Although the descent of the ancestor god this time did not directly change the power and civilization of the entire world like it did in Brother 10,000 Years world, but it is definitely more shocking. Fan Yi, Brother Chow. Is it really so exaggerated? Didn't I just save your life, Earth? Yi Fan clicked on this video. He watched it with a light smile. Not long after, he was dumbfounded. At this moment, it was not only him. The others were also stunned. Eternal Peace Pawn's Waiter. Is this real? Directly reviving hundreds of thousands of people? Isn't this too terrifying? Can people be revived so casually? To She Ancient Emperor Jade. This is too exaggerated. Life and death can be reversed at will. as expected of the ancestor god who can crush the sun with a single palm. Shivering. JPG. Borrowing from the heavens another 10,000 years. It is indeed exaggerated. The scene is too shocking. Also, the flames shouldn't be ordinary flames, right? She ancient Emperor Jade. Of course not. We have many special flames, but such a powerful flame can be ranked in the top 3 in our world. It should be a flame that originated from the sun. Otherwise, it would be impossible for it to burn so many powerful soldiers instantly. The most amazing thing is that this flame can cover the sky and the sun. It is very powerful and the area it covers is too exaggerated. It is very difficult to achieve in our world. Even the most powerful emperor can't use such a large area and such a powerful flame. The video was very clear. They could see almost no mistakes or details. But because it was Cao Cao's first-person perspective, they could not see Cao Cao himself. They could only feel the changes in Cao Cao's heart through the changes at the end. World can't betray me. That is the essence flame of the sun. She ancient Emperor Jade. As expected. It is really related to the sun. Eternal Peace Pawn's waiter. Sorry, why don't I feel that it is very powerful? Look, the ancestor god descended with a divine light and directly extinguished all the flames. It is too close. It feels like a breath. Chapter 1794. Fan Yi, ha 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 ha. Little friend, we are both ordinary people. Of course, we can't feel it. This video is even more terrifying than our sci-fi movies. Old brother Cao, I feel that the war on your side can even create planet. The Sun-Lu alliance can actually control the flow of water. I feel that your warships are even bigger than our warships and aircraft carriers. I'm afraid their sturdiness won't be too far off. However, I didn't expect the ancestor god to directly revive your hundreds of thousands of soldiers. Although Yi Fan's tone was casual, he was sweating in his heart. This wasn't just 1 or 2 people. It was hundreds of thousands of soldiers. I wonder if the heavenly court's saints in Yanhuang mythology could do it so easily? Yi Fan thought to himself. Moreover, these soldiers aren't ordinary people. They are very powerful. They cultivate martial arts and are generals that have surpassed the limits of humans. They can be revived even after being burned to ashes. This method is really unbelievable. This shouldn't be achieved with pure strength. I wonder what level the ancestor god is at. Yi Fan felt that it was really hard for him to imagine such a method. Even if he could crush a star with his bare hands and use the power of the stars in the world, he could still understand it. However, he had never seen such a method before. Just as everyone was discussing this matter, a voice suddenly rang out. An unfamiliar group ID suddenly sent a message. Ghostly, you guys are talking about that ancestor god. He can revive the dead? Everyone was stunned when they saw this message. People can't betray me. Oh? This is a newcomer? Seems like you don't know the ancestor god. Have you seen the video? If you have, don't ask this question. Ghostly, this name doesn't sound good. Seems like the newcomer has a lot of stories. Ghostly didn't send any more messages. It was as if the message was never sent. This made the other group members surprised. At this moment, Wang Feng was already preparing to build the second reincarnation. Cao Cao is really straightforward. He just finished the war and he directly built my statue in Jiangdong. At this moment, Wang Feng was in the infernal court of the ancestral realm. He felt the majestic power of faith surge out of his body and enter the chaotic lotus. It immediately turned into a river of faith that was like a surging river. The conditions this time are much better than last time, Wang Feng sighed. Cao Cao's world was much stronger than Yingzheng's world. Their population was also far greater than Yingzheng's. After all, Yingzheng was on the verge of being wiped out by the fiendish demons. There weren't many people in the country. On the other hand, Cao Cao's influence was at its peak. Moreover, because the people on their side belonged to the world of middle and high-level forces, the life auras of the human race were relatively strong. The power of faith produced was mostly thick and rich. With the amplification of the primal chaos green lotus, naturally, the demonic beast Tao includes everything in the world. Mountains, rivers, grass, trees, and plants can all be cultivated into the demonic beast Tao. Even a drop of water or a wisp of flame can be cultivated into a demonic beast. Wang Feng pondered. With the reincarnation of the monster beasts, the ancestral realms heaven and earth will be illuminated. And to create the first batch of living beings on the path of demonic beasts. Then, naturally. Therefore, a special supreme treasure was needed. Wang Feng's palm changed slightly, and the Pangu axe appeared in his hand. Change. Wang Feng's palm shook slightly. The Pangu axe flickered and immediately turned into an ancient bell. The bell of chaos. Countless living beings in the primordial world are engraved inside this bell of chaos. Wang Feng's eyes flickered. Apart from the human race, it includes all the demonic beast races in the primordial world. Among them, the most powerful race, apart from the dragon, phoenix, and Qilin, is Dijun. His main body is a three-legged golden crow. From the perspective of the universe, a demonic beast at the level of the three-legged golden crow was equivalent to a star that had transformed and cultivated spiritually. In the universe, a star could give birth to self-consciousness. However, in the primordial world, there was no concept of a star. With the demon race as the source, it was the three-legged golden crow. I will create all the demon races in the primordial world. I will create those that don't. Wang Feng pondered for a moment. The demonic beast race was much more complicated than the human race. It was naturally much more difficult to create. First, it was the selection of the physical body. The characteristics of the race he created were naturally determined by him. The demonic beast race must be innately powerful. Their physical bodies are naturally stronger than the human race. Because everything in the world can become a demonic beast race, the demonic beasts that are born will definitely be strange. Wang Feng thought of this. The project is a little big. After thinking for a moment, Wang Feng decided to use the primordial origin to build a model of the patterns of the living beings in the primordial world. Then, he directly imported the physical body and blood as raw materials. This way, the speed will be much faster. Wang Feng heaved a sigh of relief. Oh right, as the son of destiny of the Three Kingdoms world, Cao Cao's power of faith is extraordinary. I'll use it to create the three-legged golden crow of the original primordial world. Perhaps there will be some changes. Oh, as for the powerful demonic beasts like the dragon, phoenix, and Qilin, and many other demonic beasts, they are not a problem. As for the physical body and blood materials, they were not so easy to find. The human race's physical body only used the ordinary living soil of the ancestral realm, which was the soil. If the first batch of demonic beast ancestors used the living soil, it would be too lousy. Wang Feng thought for a long time and decided to use the physical body genes of his subordinates to cultivate special demonic beast genes through the genetic technology on the shore of the Angel Nebula. Blood was the same. Wang Feng also used the blood of his subordinates as the source. The demon blood sacrificed by the miserable Ing Zheng was enough. Now, every once in a while, Ing Zheng would sacrifice the demon blood he killed as a ritual. Wang Feng naturally did not lack the demon blood. After the blood was strengthened by the Chaos Green Lotus, it was indeed powerful enough. After mixing the two types, the blood was strong enough. Then, he would inject the physical body genes and blood into the primordial origin. According to the primordial origin's analysis of the countless demonic beasts in the primordial world, the model established could quickly produce batches of extremely powerful Hotian demonic beasts. With a body and blood that far surpasses that of humans, their physical body's growth potential is already very special and the ability to change is extremely strong. but in terms of souls, they have to rely on themselves to awaken. That batch of soul energy purified by the void life will be used on other races in the future. It gave the demonic beasts such powerful strength. Wang Feng naturally needed to keep a part of it. It will definitely take a lot of time to awaken their souls. Wang Feng gently raised his hand. In the infernal world, behind the sea of bitterness, on the other side of the human Tao reincarnation gate, an equally magnificent gate of reincarnation was slowly built by gathering the endless power of faith. Go! Wang Feng placed the primordial origin in the demonic beast gate of reincarnation. Streaks of light, accompanied by the huge model of the primordial origin, entered the gate of reincarnation and fell into the vast land of the ancestral realm. They turned into the bodies of sleeping demonic beasts. In the endless years of the ancestral realm, they absorbed the essence of heaven and earth and slowly awakened their consciousness. Chapter 1795. Ancestral Realm. Bibi Dong was wearing a long black dress. She looked like a goddess of the night as she walked through this world. I went to Xiao Shui's place for so long without any news. Now that I'm back, I'm hiding here, Bibi Dong muttered. I wonder what you and Yan Qingju are up to. Ever since Wang Feng followed Qian Rinxue to the other universe, she had been waiting in the Douluo world. Because there was a channel between the mainframe and the Douluo world. Back then, when they fought against Emotians, Wang Feng's soul was still in the Dark Demon Realm's soul domain. She brought the soul beasts and people close to Wang Feng and placed them in the ancestral realm. After defeating Emotian's clone, Wang Feng went to the extreme north to understand what happened with the Snow Empress. Bibi Dong had been waiting in the ancestral realm. After Wang Feng followed Qian Rinxue to the other universe, she made a trip back to the Dark Demon Realm. Since you're back from Xiao Shui's place, your third clone's body of faith should have been condensed, right? Bibi Dong looked at the sky of the ancestral realm. After a long time, she felt a unique life aura in this world. Seems like you've been in the ancestral realm all this time. Bibi Dong's tone was a little quiet. Those two little B***cheese in the God realm missed you so much, but you didn't even say anything when you came back. With that, Bibi Dong walked in this new world unhurriedly. She felt the uniqueness of this world. Not long later, she sensed the source of the life aura. After concealing her aura and body, Bibi Dong planned to observe. It's the aura of a human. Seems like you've created the first batch of humans. Bibi Dong thought for a while and snorted. Let's see what the humans you've created are capable of. With that, Bibi Dong turned into a black fog and spread forward. With her current strength, she had another eternal god slayer and several origins. Other than the Rakshasa origin, when she entered the god realm, she also obtained several origins in the Dark Demon realm. She was only one step away from becoming a universe life. The only thing she was lacking was the universe's will. Unfortunately, the will of the universe could only be encountered by chance. Through the black fog, Bibi Dong saw the group of humans. In the distant forest, the leader was indeed a man wearing thick clothes woven from beast skins and huge fan-shaped leaves. They were very ordinary clothes. It was just like the primordial era of Douluo. Bibi Dong shook his head. He didn't know how long these humans had been in the ancestral realm. Their civilization was too backward. He doesn't seem to be very strong, Bibi Dong frowned slightly. There were about 10 humans in the distance. Although the level of civilization was not high, they should be in some kind of hunting mode at this time. However, Bibi Dong could sense that these 10 people seemed to contain powerful life auras, which meant that they had great potential. From the perspective of a normal human's physique, their physical strength alone should be comparable to a titled Douluo of the Douluo world. However, such strength was far from enough in the ancestral realm. Not only was it far from enough in the ancestral realm, but it was also far from enough in the godly system universe. It's nothing much. Bibi Dong was about to withdraw his gaze. At this moment, a very devout man walked out of the 10 people. He seemed to be chanting something. Then, he waved the wooden staff in his hand. The wooden staff was carved with very special patterns, and the top was covered with the head of an unknown beast. Accompanied by the man's chanting, streaks of faint blood-red light rose from their bodies. It was as if some kind of shackle had been unlocked. The 10 people's bodies began to expand, and their auras rapidly increased. Bibidon was shocked and continued to watch. It was almost in less than 10 breaths' time. These 10 people's bodies had increased by at least 10 times. They looked like giants. The tallest among them was the one who cast the spell, which was close to 100 meters tall. This is not an ordinary human? Bibidon was slightly stunned. Or perhaps this was their true body? He could clearly feel that these 10 people had surpassed the strongest person in the Xianluo continent. In the Douluo divine world, they had at least reached the strength of a rank 3 god. However, these humans had not comprehended the origin. It was just that the aura of their bodies had already reached this level. How do these humans cultivate? Bibidon was a little curious. She didn't know how Wang Wu was tinkering with this ancestral realm. She followed his gaze. The 10 people whose bodies had suddenly increased in size began to walk towards a huge mountain in front of them. That huge mountain was tens of thousands of meters tall. The 10 people worked together and climbed to the center of the huge mountain in a few steps. Then, with their fists, they directly pierced through the huge mountain from the center. The moment they pierced through, the entire mountain began to collapse. A low roar came from the depths of the mountain. Immediately after, a giant beast that was at least 10,000 meters in size, like an ancient life that had just woken up from its slumber, let out a long roar from the bottom of the mountain. Roar! Bibidon's heart trembled slightly. The aura of this giant beast seemed to be very powerful. Just from this aura, Bibidon could determine that the strength of this giant beast was comparable to a rank 1 god in the Douluo divine world. The demon master of the dark demon world was too much. Could it be that this was also created by Wang Wu, or is this an innate life form that was born in the ancestral realm itself? I remember that the ancestral realm didn't seem to have an innate life form. That Yen Mengyao said that the ancestral realm didn't have a reincarnation cycle. When it was just created, the ancestral realm wasn't very strong, so it didn't give birth to an innate life form. Bibidon looked carefully. The giant beast at the bottom of the mountain roared, as if it had just woken up from an endless period of time. The earth shook and the sky shook. The entire mountain collapsed in an instant. The 10 giants didn't seem to have expected this. Each of the giants held a piece of sparkling stone in their hands. They directly leaped up from the collapsed mountain. Bibidon saw the appearance of that giant beast. It was a giant beast with a lion's head, deer's horns, elk's body, dragon's scales, and an ox's tail. Its entire body flickered with colorful lights, and it was extraordinary. Its aura is still strengthening. It's already very difficult to judge by the strength system of the dark demon world. Bibidon looked at that giant beast. In terms of appearance, this giant beast didn't look ferocious. Its eyes seemed to have some divine power, and it could even sense where he was. Those eyes seemed to be able to see through all illusions. But what surprised Bibidon was that although it had such an appearance, other than the divine power in its eyes, there was a hint of confusion. It was like a newborn baby. Did this giant beast just wake up? Bibidon said in surprise. At this time, the 10 giants began to point at the giant beast, as if they were intimidated by this beast's uniqueness. Urgently, one of the giants handed over the sparkling stone in his arms and threw it to the giant beast. The giant beast swept its tail and caught the stone, then swallowed it into its stomach. Chapter 1796. A moment later, the giant beast spat out a raindrop-like light that hit the giant who threw the stone. It turned into a totem that was imprinted between the giant's eyebrows. Then, the giant beast roared again and flew toward the sky. It seemed to be calling for something, but also seemed to be sending a signal of its birth to the ancestral realm. Bibidon was speechless for a long time after witnessing this scene. That giant beast is called a qilin. In the ancient civilization, it symbolized auspiciousness and was the symbol of luck. It also had this great power. A familiar voice sounded in his ears. Bibi Dong turned around and saw that Wang Feng had unknowingly appeared beside him. Bibidon turned his head and said, "You created it?" "Of course, a qilin is a kind of monster beast." Wang Feng smiled and said, "I just established the monster reincarnation and created the first batch of monsters. However, these monsters didn't have suitable soul power and could only rely on themselves to awaken. Those humans just now wanted to obtain the stone mine in this mountain and didn't want to alarm this ancient, auspicious beast. They don't look like much," Bibidon said with a cold face. "What about those humans? They don't look like normal humans. They are a branch of the human race." Wang Feng said slowly, "The human reincarnation has been established for some time. After many years of development, there are many branches of the human race. The branch just now is called the Qi human race." Hundreds of years had passed since Wang Feng established the human reincarnation in the ancestral realm. Of course, there was still a long way to go before it covered the entire ancestral realm. Because after Wang Feng's body of faith was established, the power of faith continued to gather, causing the ancestral realm to continuously expand. At present, the total number of humans had grown to 1,000,000. The human race's reproduction speed was too fast, and under the leadership of the first human emperor, human civilization bloomed like 100 flowers. It had to be said that Wang Feng thought it was the best choice to use the power of faith produced by Yingzheng, the chosen one, to create this soul. Later, he used the power of faith produced by Xiao Yan and Xiao Sun to enlighten two special humans. He used it to assist the human emperor. Otherwise, the development of human civilization would be extremely slow. It was hard to imagine how low the probability was for the humankind to give birth to a special leader with the aptitude of the human emperor. Qi human tribe? Bibidon turned to look at Wang Feng out of curiosity. Yes. Wang Feng gently pulled open the void. Scenes appeared in front of Bibidon's eyes. This is the history of the development of the human race in the ancestral realm. The Qi human race was first born from two humans who swallowed a special fruit. This led to the birth of a small giant that possessed extremely unique giant genes. It was able to enhance its form in battle and greatly increase its combat prowess. Later on, this gene was passed down and formed the Qi human race. Among the current human race, the Qi human race's combat strength is extremely high, and they have an innate advantage in terms of expanding their territory. He's one of the best human warriors. Bibidon nodded and pondered for a few seconds. I didn't expect the human race to be so powerful. It had indeed subverted her understanding of the human race. These humans could develop to such an extent with only a few hundred years of civilization. It was hard to imagine the future for their combat prowess to reach such a high level. Wang Feng coughed a few times and said, "There are even more powerful human warriors, but you haven't seen them yet." "More powerful?" Wang Feng smiled and said, "That's right. Among the human race, the most powerful warriors now are not the Qi human race. Instead, they are the special human race bestowed by God. These humans are even more powerful than the Qi human race, and they have a very powerful special power, the power of God. Different God-bestowed powers can bring about different changes to them." The power of God? Bibidon thought for a while before coming to a realization. Is it the power that you personally bestowed? Bibidon glanced at Wang Feng from the corner of her eyes and seemed to be amused. "You really know how to flatter yourself?" Wang Feng smiled. This was not flattery. These humans were all created by him. They belonged to him, and they were the most orthodox clan race. Ever since the human emperor held a sacrifice, Wang Feng had thought that he had to give these humans some more power. Therefore, every time they held a sacrifice, Wang Feng would choose a few with potential and bestow his power to them. Because the human race had developed a lot, their abilities were very different, and the power bestowed was also very different. Now, as demonic beasts began to appear in the ancestral realm, the human race was still much weaker than the demonic beast. Take the Qilin who had just woken up as an example. Each of those 10 Qi-men was an extremely valiant warrior among the entire human race. But in front of that Qilin, they were too weak. If it wasn't for one of the Qi human race who saw that the Qilin was not a ferocious demonic beast and offered a stone mine that he had dug out as a friendly greeting, the Qilin would have died. Now, it probably didn't exist anymore. It seems that the ancestral realm is developing well, Bibidan said faintly. Of course. Wang Feng's eyes lit up and flashed with brilliant divine light. As long as the 9 paths of reincarnation is established, the ancestral realm will definitely be strong to a peak. When that time comes, I just need to continuously inject the power of faith into the ancestral realm, and the ancestral realm will continue to be strong and give birth to more powerful warriors. On the day of the Battle of the Gods, I believe that the entire God system universe will be overturned. Wang Feng's tone was heroic. This was indeed his goal. Using the lives that he had personally created to defeat the gods of the God system universe who had cultivated their clans through conquering many parallel universes. He was using the most ancient method of the God system universe to clash with the system of the modern God system universe. He even added his own changes. Then, are we useless? Bibidan said faintly. Wang Feng. Of course not. Wang Feng hurriedly said, the flow of time is different. Not much time has passed in the dark demon world and Douluo divine world. Not much time has passed. Bibidan looked at Wang Feng with a smile that didn't look like a smile. I recently went to the extreme north and met the Snow Empress. And that child. Child? Wang Feng was slightly stunned. Little Ice Lotus, why? Don't you remember? The Snow Empress used her own origin to create a little ice lotus. You gave her intelligence. Isn't this child the child of you and the Snow Empress? Bibidan said. Of course I remember. What's wrong? Wang Feng didn't seem to realize the seriousness of the matter. He looked at Bibidan in confusion. Speaking of which, Wang Feng missed that child a little. It seemed that he had to take some time to take a look. He would use his clone to take a look. Anyway, it wouldn't affect the development of the ancestral realm here. This was the benefit of cultivating the one spirit into 3 pure ones. The ancestral realm had the body of faith. His clone could do other things. Child. Bibidan slowly spat out these 2 words. Chapter 1797. Hearing the word child, Wang Feng scolded himself for being slow. In a trance, the memories in Wang Feng's mind suddenly stopped flowing like a torrent of water. Then, he started to think back. How long has it been? How many years has it been? If it was a normal human, he would have lost count. Humph, Bibidan snorted. Looking at the silent Wang Feng, he probably understood that this guy was reflecting on himself. Then, let's make one too? Wang Feng regained his senses and looked at Bibidan. Bibidan turned and said, if it's like the Snow Empress, you can take back your words. Wang Feng coughed and said, of course not. But with our current strength, if you have a child, it will involve a lot of karmic power. Compared to before, you might be in danger. Some situations might be unforeseen by me. The continuation of life was an eternal topic. In essence, it was inheritance. Even a universe-level life form would pass on its own life and will of the universe. But most universe-level life forms had already surpassed low-level life forms. If they chose to extend their lives, there would be many methods. At the same time, to protect the lives of their descendants, they would choose the safest and most reliable method. You're still afraid of this? Bibidon asked. Wang Feng nodded slightly. Just like when I faced Mo Tiance back then. I thought that if I were to encounter such a situation again, I would die without any trump cards. But I've implicated all of you. Wang Fengxin sighed with emotion. Back in the Douluo world, he was still young. He thought that finding a few wives and doing everything as he wished was just so. After all, as a powerful being, it was not strange to have a confidant. But the stronger he was, the more he understood that the more confidants he had, the greater the responsibility. Wang Feng shook his head. If you knew this would happen, why did you do it back then? Bibidon snorted. Count yourself. How many do you have? You're developing in the ancestral realm now and can't leave. You'll get stronger and stronger. But what about them? The gap between you and them will get bigger and bigger. How are you going to deal with them? Now that we're facing a God system universe, an entire universe, Bibidon's voice was low. Wang Feng was silent. I didn't come here just to tell you that I want you to leave them a child. Bibidong sighed. It doesn't matter whether they're gods, humans, or soul beasts, but if you're dead, they won't be of much use to you. But emotions are sincere, they are alive. Your steps are getting bigger and bigger, and even little Snow can't keep up with you. In the future, this gap will only get bigger. One day, if they die, you might still be alive. Although they are gods, they won't be able to pass the origin wheel cataclysm. Being able to live eternally in the God realm doesn't mean that they can live eternally in the universe. You should understand such a simple rule better than I do. I'm afraid that even the heavenly Tao of the God realm and Yan Qingjue of the dark devil realm won't be able to overcome it. When Bibidon said this, there was a hint of sadness in his voice. Wang Feng looked at the sky of the ancestral realm. This was a very realistic question. Immortality was only relative. He had thought about this problem before, but he couldn't find a solution. This was because none of his close female friends could become a universe-level life form. Qian Renxue was the one with the most potential. But it was only Qian Renxue. Bibidon hugged Wang Feng gently. The hug was like water mixing, calm and clear. Wang Wu, don't be bound by them, and don't restrain them. Unless you have the ability to help them all become universe-level life forms. Bibidon said softly. What are you trying to say? Wang Feng suddenly asked. That Crimson God Fox Emperor came to Dark Demon Sector and talked to me. She wants to take us away. Bibidon said softly. She said she has a way to make us all become universe-level life forms. Wang Feng frowned slightly. Crimson God Fox Emperor had helped him a lot before. But Wang Feng still remembered how Crimson God Fox Emperor erased part of his clone's memory for him and Hu Laina. Now she wants to take them away. Wang Feng couldn't help but think deeply about this. What else did she say? Wang Feng asked. What else, just these? Bibidon shook her head. You may suspect she has other intentions, but if she really has a way, what can she do? Wang Feng said indifferently. Her own universe will is incomplete. Even though she's a universe-level life form, she can't possibly have a way to make you all become universe-level life forms. Crimson God Fox Emperor's incomplete universe will, Wang Feng had always remembered it in his heart. Back then in Dark Demon Sector's spirit domain, the Crimson God Fox Emperor had mentioned it. It was because Crimson God Fox Emperor's universe will was incomplete that the Crimson God Fox race was born with a will curse. Wang Feng didn't believe that Crimson God Fox Emperor had a way. So you don't agree? Bibidon asked. Wang Feng was silent for a while. If you all really want to leave, I won't restrict you. Then leave a child for me first. Bibidon said softly. Dark Demon Sector. Yan Qingju and Crimson God Fox Emperor sat facing each other. Tell me, with Wang Feng's temperament, will he allow me to bring his close female friends along? Crimson God Fox Emperor said indifferently in the void. Should be. Yan Qingju thought for a while. No, more accurately, it's his women who will take the initiative to leave. Wang Feng's foresight isn't bad. His women are all very important. If they knew that they would drag Wang Feng down, they would definitely take the initiative to leave. Not to mention, if they could become universe-level life forms, they would be able to help Wang Feng. Otherwise, they wouldn't drag him down. Even that cute and lovable Ning Rongrong was moved. You can imagine. Crimson God Fox Emperor laughed. I'm doing this to give him a way out, Crimson God Fox Emperor said slowly. That girl Nana is very concerned about this fellow. Even if she can't meet him, now that she knows that he is going to participate in the God War with the God System Universe's God System, and that the conflict is getting worse, she must be very anxious. Now in the God System Universe, he has already offended several God Systems. Other than the false god from Donghuang God System, there's also a heavenly god from Crow God System, the other false gods from Skyflame God System, and so on. I don't know how many more gods this fellow will offend. Moreover, to be honest, with the power of faith provided by the world you're looking for, it's impossible to develop the ancestral realm. Crimson God Fox Emperor shook his head and said. But the ancestral realm is developing quite well. Yan Qingju thought for a while. She had been helping Wang Feng find members in the chat group. She could only learn about the development of the ancestral realm from Yan Mengyao. She wasn't sure about the details. Chapter 1798. Good. The Crimson Divine Fox Emperor laughed. Is it so easy to develop a divine realm? To be honest, his idea is not bad. I am quite surprised. But unfortunately, the time is too short. Furthermore, with his character, he might not leave a god power imprint in the souls of those people. This means that it will be difficult for him to develop his clan tribes. 1/5 of the 100 days have passed. I have received news that the false god from the Divine System Universe, which is his opponent, the Enlightenment God from the Donghuang Divine System, should have broken through to the Heavenly God realm. Speaking of this, Yan Qingjue's eyes narrowed slightly. However, it is because of this divine battle that he did not break through. Because after breaking through, it will be a battle between the heavenly gods of the Divine System Universe and the native heavenly god. Hence, this Enlightenment God is currently accumulating his strength. They have millions or even tens of millions of spawn in their god realm. In 100 days, Wang Feng did not use a god power imprint. He only relied on the power of faith from those worlds. How can he develop? The Crimson Divine Fox Emperor paused. Yan Qingjue fell into deep thought. Actually, the Crimson Divine Fox Emperor's words made sense. Yan Qingjue was also somewhat doubtful. Hence, in order to leave a way out for him, it is impossible not to take his women away, said the Crimson Divine Fox Emperor. Good excuse, said Yan Qingjue. I think you should have more confidence in him. The Crimson Divine Fox Emperor glared at her. You don't understand. At our level, there is no such thing as confidence. Furthermore, what about her? Yan Qingjue was slightly stunned. In the Soul Society, if I remember correctly, Wang Feng seems to have offended her before, right? It is not considered offending, but they have crossed swords. Yan Qingjue fell silent. To her, that is offending. That person is not to be trifled with. Compared to the divine battle, that little princess from the Divine System Universe has a powerful background and a strange personality. Nothing good will come out of offending her. The Crimson Divine Fox Emperor laughed softly. Don't forget that the palace in your reincarnation well was created by her. For a life form of that level, just a little bit of her is enough. She can easily destroy your world with just this little bit of interest. Fortunately, your reincarnation well is unlocked. The Douluo divine world also has a calamity origin, and this calamity origin isn't simple. The origin tribulation broke open the palace in the reincarnation sea of the Douluo divine world and released the reincarnation shackles of the Douluo divine world. She already knew about it. If she knew that Wang Feng had a close relationship with Tribulation Origin God King, who knows what kind of unpredictable situation would occur. Fortunately, Wang Feng hasn't obtained the complete universe will of Calamity Source Godly King. She can't sense anything now. Alright, stop talking. Yan Qingju immediately stopped the Crimson Divine Fox Emperor's persuasion. It's not like I can leave with you. It's impossible for you to leave with me. After all, you and his soul have already cultivated the yin-yang intersection origin. Separating will affect him greatly. I'm telling you this because I want you to go to Shi Yu and ask her to hand over the Silver Dragon to me. The Silver Dragon has extraordinary potential, and I have high hopes for its future. However, I have no relationship with Shi Yu of the Douluo Divine Realm, and I don't want to force her with my power. You have a good relationship with her, so I'll leave it to you. Yan Qingju's face darkened. To put it bluntly, wasn't she just the confidant of that guy who wanted to kidnap Wang Feng? I'll try. Yan Qingju thought for a moment. If I really take them all away when Wang Feng realizes. He doesn't have the mood for that now. Crimson Divine Fox Emperor said. The War of the Gods is something he should focus on. Douluo Divine Realm. Take the Silver Dragon away? Shi Yu looked at Yan Qingju. What do you mean? Don't you know the relationship between the Silver Dragon and Wang Feng? Do you think Wang Feng will agree to take her away? You can persuade the Silver Dragon. You are the heavenly Tao of the Divine Realm, and you are soul mates with Wang Feng. Yan Qingju said. So you're not? Shi Yu wanted to reject. Go and say it yourself. I don't care about that. Then you have to think about the future, right? Yan Qingju thought for a moment. The Divine Realm has investigated Wang Feng thoroughly. He has offended many Divine Realms, and who knows if the Divine Realm will do something to him. As the main character of the War of the Gods, the Divine Realm won't touch Wang Feng. But his female friends are very important to Wang Feng. If something happens to them, do you think Wang Feng has a chance of winning the War of the Gods? Shi Yu frowned. Shi Yu frowned. She was probably surprised by this. Would a divine system universe do such a thing? There are many divine realms in the Divine Realm, Yan Qingju said. Do you think all the divine realms are fair? Crimson Divine Fox Emperor told me that there is a divine realm in the Divine Realm that is very special. It is called the Shadow Destruction Divine Realm, and the gods there are very cunning and sinister. They are notorious in the Divine Realm. This god of the Shadow Destruction Divine Realm roams the borders of the Divine Realm. What they like the most is to secretly use all kinds of methods that even Divine Realm can't detect to destroy the gods of other Divine Realms. Or they can directly destroy the Divine Realm. They can destroy the god's source of faith and Divine Realm. If this god of the Shadow Destruction Divine Realm attacks Wang Feng, he will definitely target Wang Feng's female friends. Shi Yu listened with a serious expression. Okay, I will try. Wang Feng smelled the lingering fragrance on his fingertips and sighed. Bibidon is gone. It was actually very easy for a god to have a child. There was no saying that the higher the level of life, the harder it was to have a child. Especially in some immortal cultivation world. After all, they could create life as they wished. How could they prevent their women from having a child? Bibidon is gone. She should have taken Rongrong, Zhuqing, and Snow Empress with her. Wang Feng thought for a moment. Who else? Oh right, the Silver Dragon shouldn't have been taken away. Wang Feng was naturally melancholic at the thought of his female friends leaving. Fortunately, there was still the Silver Dragon. I should find some time to visit her, Wang Feng thought for a moment. The Silver Dragon and Bibidon aren't close. They probably won't leave with them. Wang Feng heaved a sigh of relief. If even the Silver Dragon left, then only the Qianrenxue was left. Master, there seems to be someone in the chat group echoing you. At this moment, Yan Mengyao, who seemed to be the CEO's secretary, sent a voice transmission. Who? That kid Yi Fan or Jing Tian? Wang Feng asked. In the chat group, only these two people hadn't prayed to that scripture. It wasn't that there weren't any praying, but that they weren't praying enough. Neither. It's that newcomer called Ghostly. Wang Feng was stunned when he heard that. Chapter 1799. Zhu Xian World. In the cold stone room, white mist like immortal qi lingers. The white mist adheres to the stone wall, imprinting the color and traces of ice and snow. It makes the whole stone room cold and gloomy. But in this gloomy and cold stone room, the green figure on the ice bed makes the whole stone room a little warmer. However, this warmth was not real. At least, it cannot be felt by Ghostly, who is standing by the ice bed. He is standing in front of the ice bed, waiting quietly. He has joined the chat group for a few days, but he is not interested in this mysterious chat group that appeared in his mind. He is not interested in that ancestor god. Until the appearance of the person named, "The World Can't Betray Me," and some of the conversations in the group, he is interested. As an ordinary immortal cultivator in the Blue Cloud sect. Because of love, he fell into the demonic path. Now, in his eyes, there is only this green figure on the ice bed. But now, resurrection, Ghostly murmurs in a low voice, "This ancestor god, what kind of existence is it?" Being interested, naturally, in order to find out, Ghostly looks through the chat history in the group. Crush the star is the sun in their mouth, the sun in the sky? To be able to crush the sun with one hand, even the immortals in the legends can do it? The more he looks, the more shocked Ghostly is. What is the sun? In this immortal cultivation world, the sun is the essence of heaven and earth. It is the source of light with great power in countless myths and legends. It is the foundation for all life to survive in this world. If there is no sun, this world may not even have spiritual energy. Immortal cultivators are in awe of the sun. Not to mention crushing the sun, even if they fly up to the sky and want to get closer, they cannot withstand the heat. In dozens of years of experience, Ghostly has never heard of anyone who can spy on the sun in the sky. Crush it? Even the myths in the legends do not dare to write such a story. At first, Ghostly thought that these unknown people in the group were all just boasting. Until he found out that the video in the group can be downloaded to watch. Only then did he know that his vision is too small. The bright light in the hand of the ancestor god is more dazzling than the sun in the sky. The power it emits is endless. Even through the screen, Ghostly can feel the terrible power contained in it. It was an unimaginable power that could destroy the entire world. Just like that, the silhouette of an ancestral god gently crushed it. Moreover, that world hadn't suffered any damage at all. What kind of great power was that? Ascended immortals? Ghostly's heart beat wildly. Then, with a wave of his hand, a silver river that looked like a star changed the structure of the entire world. Especially when he saw that the ordinary animals that were casually transformed were actually not the slightest bit inferior to the ancient divine beasts in the grand desolate border mountains. This was simply an immortal miracle. Only immortals who had ascended would have the ability to enlighten. Ghostly knew that this ancestor god was no ordinary person. He wasn't sure if he was an immortal, but his strength was definitely incomparably strong. However, no matter how powerful he was, could he reverse the cycle of reincarnation and change his fate? Ring! A gust of icy wind blew past, and a crisp ringing sound was heard. Ghostly's emotions were pulled back to the stone chamber. He stared at the beautiful green figure on the ice bed again and clicked on the video with a determined look in his eyes. He wanted to know more about the ancestor god's deed. At the same time, he also understood the world where the other people in the chat group were in. He realized that other than the world called Fanyi, most of them were about the same. There was even a world that was relatively similar to the world he was in. That was the world where the shop assistant from Yangon Pawn was in. It seemed that there were immortals there as well. The other worlds weren't much different. Especially when he looked at some of the battle scenes in the video, he realized that most of them were about the same. It was just that the way they were fighting was very different. Until, with a trembling heart, he clicked on the video sent by the group member, "People Can't Betray Me." He wanted to confirm if the ancestor god could really bring the dead back to life. However, the moment he clicked on it, Ghostly was greatly shocked. He was shocked by the power of this group member. Those soldiers are all emitting a powerful aura. They are not inferior to those 4th or 5th generation disciples of the Blue Cloud sect. Especially those generals. They are at least comparable to the peak masters of the Blue Cloud sect. There are so many of them. Ghostly was truly shocked by the strength of that group member. Moreover, that was an army of hundreds of thousands. This meant that, if that group member came to the world they were in, it wouldn't be a problem for him to sweep through them. Especially those warships. Although I don't know how these warships were made, each of them should be an extremely powerful large-scale magic weapon. Ghostly knew that this might be the cultural difference between the two worlds. Perhaps the strength of the top cultivator in this world and the strongest cultivator in the world of that group member were not much different. But the difference in power caused by the cultural difference was too great. That was a chaotic world filled with war and smoke. Such a powerful force can be gathered in the hands of one person. Ghostly thought of the Ghost King, the sect master of the Ghost King sect. However, compared to him, this group member was obviously more powerful. The territory and power he controlled were also more powerful. That is the sun's essence, fire. It is difficult for any magic weapon to withstand the erosion of this flame. I'm afraid only immortals can activate it. The later scene also confirmed Ghostly's conjecture. Whether it was the warships of this world or the people of this world, they were all very powerful. Under the terrifying sun's essence fire, hundreds of thousands of soldiers were turned into ashes. From here, Ghostly could feel how terrifying the scene of the sun being crushed was. Even the cultivators of our world would find it difficult to resist this level of flame for a long time. The shock in Ghostly's eyes began to turn into hope. As expected, the video progressed very quickly. The light and shadow descended, and the ancestor god reappeared. The thing that Ghostly wanted to see the most finally happened, just a ray of divine light. His eyes opened wide, so wide that they were filled with blood. Countless blood vessels instantly filled his eyes. Just one ray of divine light was enough to bring these powerful warriors back to life. Ghostly had never seen such a shocking scene before. What he cared about more was that they were really revived. "It's real, it's real!" he suddenly cried loudly. His cold and indifferent eyes began to quickly be replaced by hope and ecstasy. He lay on the edge of the ice bed, revealing a loss of self-control that he had never shown before. "Biao, I can revive you," Ghostly murmured. Dozens of breaths later, he began to calm down. He began to think. If I want the ancestor god to descend, I have to chant the great Tao God summoning chapter. Piety is the key. Ghostly said silently. In the group, 2 of the group members have tried, but they did not seem to succeed. Piety. These 2 words were too vague. Chapter 1800. That's right, offerings. If I add in a suitable offering, will it? Ghostly pondered. He had seen the offering to borrow another 10,000 years from the heavens. To be honest, those offerings were not worth mentioning in this world. Blood offerings, offerings. Heavenly Book, Ghostly pondered. Perhaps the Heavenly Book and this fire rod. Ancestral God should be interested in them. The Heavenly Book was this world's cultivation mystic technique, a supreme treasure. Based on what Ghostly knew, the Heavenly Book contained the cultivation philosophy of the 3 most powerful sects in this world, Buddhism, demon, and Taoism. In other words, the cultivation mantras of Buddhism, demon, and Taoism were all comprehended from the heavenly book. Ghostly once thought that this should be an immortal technique. It fell into this world. Ghostly raised his hand and looked at the black rod in his hand. At the top, there was a round bead that looked like a blood gem. It emitted a soul-stirring light. The heavenly book and the soul-devouring rod were the two most precious treasures he had. I hope the ancestral god will be interested in them. Ghostly took a deep breath. This was the so-called piety and sincerity. Whether it succeeds or not, perhaps it will only depend on this moment. Thinking of this, Ghostly began to recite the great Tao God summoning chapter. Almost from the very beginning, he had sensed a strong spiritual fluctuation. In an instant, the depths of his soul were filled with a huge shadow. An ancient and eternal supreme aura spread out like the vastness of the universe. Boom! The shadow descended. The entire stone room seemed to be unable to block the majesty of this shadow. Ghostly suddenly opened his eyes and looked at the shadow in a daze. His breathing became rapid. I already know. From the shadow came a voice that shook the depths of his soul. I can revive the person you love. The ancestral god's words made Ghostly feel the warmth of this world again. But you have to think carefully. The ancestral god continued slowly. Once she is revived, what choice will you face? Ghostly's body suddenly stopped. What do you know? Ghostly muttered. I am omniscient. The ancestor god continued. Your original name was Zhang Xiaofan, and you came from this world's azure cloud sect. You were originally an insignificant disciple, but due to a freak combination of factors, you fell in love with this world's demonic woman. Later, because this demonic woman sacrificed herself for you, you betrayed the azure cloud sect. Only after a lot of training did you become who you are now. At the same time, in your heart, there is another woman besides this demonic woman. Have you thought it through? Ghostly stumbled back a few steps. Where did this ancestor god come from? How could she know so much about him? However, thinking of the ancestor god's remarkable abilities, Ghostly also felt at ease. Perhaps, for a great being of this level, even this world was only a matter of a single thought from the ancestor god. You still care about the feelings of us mortals? Ghostly was silent for a moment and asked in a low voice. I don't mind. The ancestor god said majestically, however, if you call out piously, I will answer your call and descend. You will be my believer. God was tolerant and compassionate towards his believers. Since you are a devout believer in my glory, then God must know everything about you. Ghostly understood what he meant. Moreover, emotions are the great Tao of the universe. It is the source of life. There is no distinction between mortals and gods. Ghostly's heart trembled. Regarding this, he vaguely had a feeling. His realm seemed to be about to break through at any time. This gave Ghostly a huge shock. He didn't expect that this ancestor god didn't do anything. Just a few seemingly ordinary words could make him break through. Then what should I do? Ghostly knelt on the ground and asked piously. Think of the past and future, and have a clear conscience. The ancestor god said. Ghostly was startled. He seemed to understand. Do you still want to resurrect her? The ancestor god asked. Yes. Ghostly answered without hesitation. Good, then as you wish. After saying that, divine light descended. It fell into the emerald green figure. Suddenly the world changed. Streaks of white light converged from all directions. It was like 3 souls and 6 spirit, reversing reincarnation and yin and yang. This was even more heaven-defying than a cultivator going against the heavens. In an instant, the cold stone room was blown to smithereens by this terrifying aura. Ghostly looked at the sky in a daze. The world changed, lightning flashed. The heavens that controlled the lives of all living beings seemed to want to send down the 9 heavens of lightning tribulation, smashing the heaven-defying person into pieces. waves of terrifying aura brewed from the heavens above. Ghostly held his breath, his body trembling. In order to save his beloved, he once went to the Sublime Cord Temple, one of the major Buddhist sects in the world, to borrow a divine artifact, the universe reincarnation disc. It could reverse the heavens and earth, reverse yin and yang karma. There was a chance that he could save his beloved. But the senior monk of the Sublime Cord Temple said that this was a heaven-defying act. Changing the fate of heaven and earth would definitely lead to heavenly punishment. That was even more terrifying than ascending and going through the lightning tribulation. It was a situation where there was no chance of survival. Ghostly wasn't afraid at that time, but later on, due to some reasons, he didn't succeed. But now, seeing the heavenly punishment descending, he finally understood what it meant by no chance of survival. In the chat group, he knew that the world was different. The rules were different. This world wasn't like the world where no one could betray him. Here, he had to resurrect the dead. Not only did he need to reverse the heavens and earth, he also needed to be able to withstand the heavens' punishment. The rules of the world was so terrifying. Above the 9 heavens, endless thunderclouds gathered. It seemed to be able to destroy the heavens and earth, destroying all living beings in the universe. Almost at this moment, almost all living beings in the world felt a destructive aura. But only Ghostly knew that this kind of destruction was targeted at the ancestor god. It was targeted at the green temperature on the ice bed. But at this moment, he only heard a calm voice. Humph! That was a voice from the ancestor god's shadow. The calm voice was like the explosion of the universe. Almost in an instant, the entire sky trembled violently. In an instant, the boundless thunderclouds actually dissipated without a trace. The lightning tribulation that seemed like it was going to destroy the world disappeared. Ghostly looked at this scene in a daze. This was the heavenly punishment? This was the world's rules? The heavenly Tao? So fragile. Ghostly suddenly had a feeling that this world was very fragile. Ghostly silently looked at the ancestor god's shadow. Although he didn't talk about those immortals who ascended, they should be very far from the ancestor god. Deal with it well. The shadow gradually disappeared, vanishing from the world, as if it never appeared. Only the warmth in his palm told Ghostly that all of this was real. Little fan? A slightly weak voice sounded by his ear. At this moment, Ghostly looked at that beautiful figure like a stone statue, his eyes filled with the brilliance of the world. Ancestral realm. Master, I see that you seem to be a little sad. Yen Mengyao was recording the harvest this time. After a moment of silence, she said, Master, why do I feel that I lost out a little, reviving a person in Ghostly's world, and reviving half a child of destiny? This consumes origin energy. Compared to the power of faith that Ghostly produced, the sex ratio is not high. However, Wang Feng smiled and said, I've completed one of your master's regrets. Compared to that, it's much better. In comparison, the power of faith that Ghostly produced is nothing. What's more, in front of feelings there is no sex ratio. What's more, that world has a lot of potential. Other things aside, there are still quite a lot of treasures. Chapter 1801. Wang Feng didn't boast to Yen Mengyao. There were indeed a lot of treasures in the immortal execution world. Perhaps those treasures were nothing to him. But after the Chaos Green Lotus amplification, they would be of great help to the ancestral realm. There are still too few special terrains in the ancestral realm. Although there are already life, it's still too empty. Most of it was mountains, rivers, and forests. There were no rare fruits, and there were very few resources. Resources, from a normal scientific point of view, needed to be accumulated over a long period of time to gather. For example, basic mineral resources. And in the era when the world was just born, such resources were probably very few. The Qi clan that Bibidon saw before went to dig for minerals, and there were only a few such towering mountains. Resources were scarce. But the immortal execution world's background was quite similar to the desolate antiquity era. The resources there were accumulated over a certain period of time. After the amplification of the Chaos Green Lotus, it could be amplified to the same strength as the ancestral realm for the life in the ancestral realm to use. On the other hand, the resources in Ing Zheng's world were relatively backward. Not to mention other things, the two things that Zhang Xiaofan offered are not bad. Wang Feng opened his palm, and 5 pale golden papers appeared in front of him. This was the heavenly book of the immortal execution world. In that world, the concept of heaven and earth contained in this heavenly book gave birth to the 3 sects of Buddhism, Demon and Tao. To a certain extent, it belonged to the origin of all laws. Because the founders of the 3 sects of Buddhism, Demon, and Tao all cultivated from the heavenly book. Of course, from Wang Feng's point of view, this was a very powerful immortal technique. It belonged to the cultivation method of another immortal world that had never appeared in the immortal execution world, but it did exist. In the immortal execution world, there was a saying of ascension. It meant that the immortal cultivators in the immortal execution world would eventually enter another world. And in fact, when Biao was resurrected, Wang Feng sensed the thunder punishment from the heavenly Tao of that world. The immortal execution world did have this superior world. It should also belong to a great world. It belonged to a proper immortal civilization. And the one who sent down the thunder punishment was naturally the immortal life form that controlled the immortal execution world. For the immortal civilization, how could the karma of the immortal execution world be easily changed? Naturally, he wouldn't allow it. However, he was frightened by Wang Feng's stare and disappeared. For such a large world, it was not so easy to obtain faith from it. The top powerhouses of the immortal Tao civilization were also existences who could touch the life forms of the universe. And it was very difficult for such an existence to believe in other gods. Unless he used the method of the divine system universe and directly used brute force to conquer, leaving behind a divine imprint and bestowing power. It was just like how the god of death had turned Karl into a minion in the god-surpassing universe. Of course, for Wang Feng, as long as he spent some time, he would be able to cultivate believers without using that method. However, what they lacked the most right now was time. Moreover, with the increase in faith from the Chaos Green Lotus, Wang Feng did not need to spend so much time in the great world to cultivate believers, unless he was lucky enough to meet an extremely weak child of destiny. For example, people like Yi Fan. After Yi Fan experienced the 9 dragons pulling the coffin and entered the eastern wasteland, there would be endless resources. As long as Yi Fan could casually sacrifice 2 items, the benefits would be unimaginable under the amplification of the primal Chaos Green Lotus. This heavenly book scripture is just an ordinary cultivation method, Yan Mengyao said after thinking for a while. What's the use of it? It's not even as good as that stick. No. Wang Feng shook his head slightly. The 5 volumes of the heavenly book are an enlightenment cultivation method. Many of the cultivation concepts in it are very suitable for the newborn human race. It just so happens that the current human race has given birth to different races with different personalities. Then, I'll use the primordial origin to analyze and modify the 5 volumes of the heavenly book and place them in the ancestral realm to form a complete cultivation system. At least, it's suitable for the current human race. Right now, the human race only had strength, but their cultivation methods were hazy and obscure. If this continued, only the 3 special human spirits that Wang Feng had given the power of faith would be able to reach a higher level. But in fact, the cultivation methods were very scarce. Wang Feng used the primordial origin to deduce a new set, which would take a lot of time. But now that there was a ready-made one, he basically did not need much time. Wang Feng only needed to use the model of the ancestral realm and a lot of data, as well as various data of the advanced human race. Using the primordial origin source as the database, and then using it as the Heavenly Book's 5 scrolls, he could deduce a complete set of systems. Moreover, because it was an Enlightenment cultivation method, the human race in the ancestral realm could also create other cultivation methods based on this foundation. It could quickly reach the level where hundreds of flowers bloomed and experts emerged in large numbers. In fact, this kind of Enlightenment cultivation method would have a great impact on the Monster Beast clan, which had just awakened and possessed greater strength than before. As for this stick, its usefulness is relatively small, Wang Feng muttered. This stick itself is a combination of 2 kinds of heavenly materials and earthly treasures from the immortal execution world. It has no effect on me at all. After using the chaotic green lotus to enhance it, I'll return it to Ghostly when he makes his next sacrifice. Ghostly is the child of destiny of the immortal execution world. Now that Baiyao has awakened, his path will not stop. Nurturing him is the right way. Wang Feng was a man of action. After making a plan, he immediately carried it out. First, he modified the 5 volumes of the Heavenly Book. The concept of these 5 volumes derived the 3 cultivation philosophies of Buddhism and Demon Tao. Wang Feng deduced on this foundation and added the life philosophies of the Divine Tao, Azura Tao, Spirit Tao, Yin-Yang Tao, and Monster Tao. Because the remaining paths were the 9 paths of reincarnation that Wang Feng would create in the future, as well as the living races of the ancestral realm. Therefore, the 5 volumes of the Heavenly Book were strengthened to become 9 volumes. Each volume contained the life philosophies that he did not understand and contained the profound principles of the universe. It directly surpassed the basic principles of the immortal execution world. It rose to the level of the universe. The name also changed from the 5 volumes of the Heavenly Book to the 9 volumes of the Book of Ian. Put the 9 volumes of the Book of Ian in the ancestral realm. Wang Feng said slowly. Yes, Master. The gift of the ancestral god was for the entire ancestral realm. Ancestral realm. On the vast and boundless ancestral realm, 9 mountain ranges that were as tall as heaven and earth suddenly rose from the ground. They were located in 9 different positions of the ancestral realm. What is that? At this moment, in the center of the human tribe, Human Emperor, she looked into the distance at the huge stone pillar that suddenly rose up and almost reached the sky. He had never seen such a spectacle in his hundreds of years of experience. She, the ancestral god statue, is glowing. At this moment, an extraordinarily handsome man beside him shouted loudly. The man's face was burly and his body was like a giant. His eyes were calm and suppressed some surprise. End of chapter. Chapter 1802. This was Emperor Shi's deputy, Rui. He was also the ancestor of the Qi people. The current Qi people were all of his bloodline. It seems that this is a miracle. The tribe that explored the Thousand Sound soil said that in the distant north, there are also stone pillars that are as tall as heaven and earth rapidly rising from the ground. Another man with a calmer expression also walked over. This was Emperor Shi's other deputy, Rui. One of the strongest races of the human race, the Rui human race. The Rui human race had super endurance and speed. They were better than the Qi people, who were good at climbing mountains and traversing ridges. The Rui human race was agile and good at hiding their presence. Like the Qi people, they were good at exploring unknown areas. The ancestral god statue is glowing. This means that this is a miracle. Human Emperor, she pondered for a moment and said, "Call the leaders of the various clans and climb the stone pillar with me to observe. If the ancestral god has given us a miracle, then there must be great mysteries in that stone pillar." The 2 deputies quickly nodded. Then, they gathered their men and rushed toward the stone pillar with Human Emperor Shi. It has been placed. The humans are very agile. They should be able to see the 9 volumes of the Book of Ian carved on the stone pillar soon. Yan Mengyao observed. Wang Feng nodded slightly. As long as they can observe it, with their wisdom, they should be able to comprehend their own cultivation method from the 9 volumes of the Book of Ian and open their own cultivation path. The 9 volumes of the Book of Ian were created by you, Master. As they cultivate, they will definitely produce an even stronger power of faith for you. Yan Mengyao thought for a moment. It's the best of both worlds. When the 9 clans of the ancestral realm gather, they will be able to find their own cultivation method from the 9 volumes of the Book of Ian. This way, the ancestral realm's lives will have stronger faith in you. The clans nurtured this way are not only strong, but also safer and more reliable than the clans obtained through divine power imprints. Their growth is also stronger. They don't even need you to give them power in the future. Now that you mention it, the immortal execution world is not bad. Oh right, about Zhang Xiaofan's power of faith, Master, do you plan to find a time to sacrifice and place it in the human race? After all, compared to the monster race, the human race only relies on those 3. It was far from enough. If we can nurture a special human, the price will be even higher. Wang Feng said in a low voice. The life of a demonic beast was built using the countless demonic beast models of the primordial world inside the Chaos Bell. The innate stage was too powerful. It was just that most of them had yet to awaken. It's time to take a look at the chat group. Speaking of which, I wonder how Yi Fan and Jing Tian are progressing. In the chat group. Fan Yi, at everyone, this is bad. Something big happened here. Yong and Pon's waiter. Big brother Fan Yi, what's the matter? Tell me about it. Tu Shi Ancient Emperor Jade. Something big? Isn't your world very peaceful? As Fan Yi, who often bragged in front of the crowd, he shared many things about the world on Earth. The other group members were the same. Therefore, each of them had a relatively clear understanding of each other's world. Plus, they could upload videos in the group. He could see the appearance of each world, so he had a better understanding of it. People can't turn their backs on me. Did the comet hit Earth that you mentioned happen? Speaking of which, the situation on my side is very good. Borrow 10,000 years from the heavens. Brother, find a chance to tell me how you did it after unifying the continent and share your experience with me. I should be able to do it soon. I have also made arrangements for the ancestral gods' sacrifice. Borrow 10,000 years from the heavens. No problem. Fan Yi, what's the big deal? Don't tell me that it's the spiritual energy recovery that you told me about before? Fan Yi. No, it's something even more terrifying than the recovery of spiritual energy. Damn it, do you dare to believe that in my modern society, there's actually a miracle of 9 dragons pulling a coffin? I'm in the coffin now and asking for help online. What should I do? The group members listened to Fan Yi seriously. However, his tone was rather relaxed. It was obvious that this fellow was very confident and didn't seem to be afraid of such a thing. On the contrary, he was even more curious. Ding. Fan Yi uploaded a video. Everyone quickly downloaded it. At the same time, Wang Feng, who had just entered the chat group, also saw it. 9 dragons pulling a coffin? Could it be that the plot of shrouding the heavens has begun? Wang Feng was slightly stunned as an interested smile appeared on his face. He opened the video and took a look. As expected, the video was from Yi Fan's point of view. He stood at the peak of Mount Tai and stared blankly at the 9 dragons that looked like they were made of molten bronze flying over from the sky. It was as though they had flown over from the ancient era and were emitting an ancient aura. And the huge coffin behind them. The plot has begun. This son of destiny is about to enter the right path. Wang Feng pondered for a moment. However, he had to join the plot. In other words, he had to help Yi Fan quickly become the celestial arch and reach a higher level. Based on Wang Feng's understanding, even if the flow of time there was faster than here, it wouldn't be able to satisfy Wang Feng's current requirements. At this moment, Fan Yi said, "Other than me, there are also dozens of classmates from my class." The 9 dragons pulling the coffin hit Mount Tai. In order to avoid danger, we accidentally entered the coffin. Now, I feel as though the 9 dragons are going to pull us to another place. To Shi Ancient Emperor Jade, Fan Yi, these 9 dragons are very powerful. To be able to control such life forms to pull the coffin, I wonder what's in the coffin. It must be the work of a peerless expert. I advise you to wait quietly for now. Don't touch anything in the coffin. Eternal Peace Pawn Shop's worker. Cough, cough. I also want to ask you to see if there are any valuable treasures in the coffin. You should listen to Sister Yu. Borrow 10,000 years from the heavens. I suggest you ask the Ancestor God. I think the Ancestor God should know something. The world cannot betray me. I agree. We don't understand your situation. Only gods at the Ancestor God's level would understand your situation. It's really strange. Fan Yi. I also want to ask, but the Ancestor God ignored me. I can even recite the Great Tao God summoning chapter backward. Helpless. JPG. Seeing this, Wang Feng pondered for a moment and sent a message. Ancestor God. This is a small matter. There's no need to call me. Fan Yi. Damn, Ancestor God, you actually came out? Ecstasy. JPG. To Shi Ancient Emperor Jade. Ancestor God above, hee. How are you? The other group members also respectfully sent messages. Fan Yi. Ancestor God, What's going on? Is it a small matter? It's a small matter to you, but to me. Ancestor God. This is your opportunity. Just stay calm and face it. If you encounter danger that you can't face, just call me. After saying that, Wang Feng disappeared. End of this chapter. Chapter 1803. Unknown World. In the boundless starry sky, 9 giant dragons were dragging an ancient coffin behind them like the Milky Way. In the coffin, Yi Fan's soul stared at the Ancestor God's words. Opportunity. If that's the case, I might come into contact with an even more mysterious and powerful force? Yi Fan pondered. The appearance of the chat group had greatly expanded his knowledge. In the past, no matter how big his heart was, he would not be able to maintain such a state of mind in this situation. Now, the Ancestor God had personally spoken. This made Yi Fan even more certain. But I can't let my guard down. Since this is an opportunity, I have to take this opportunity to find an opportunity that suits me. To become an expert. At the very least, an expert can see a wider world. Yi Fan did not have much desire for great power. However, he longed to see more mysterious worlds and civilizations. The Ancestor God also personally gave a promise that my life is guaranteed. This was what Yi Fan was most grateful for, although he had been chanting the Great Tao God summoning chapter for some time. He thought that the Ancestor God did not notice him at all. He did not expect that the Ancestor God had been paying attention to him. The appearance of the Ancestor God this time did not seem to help me much, but the advice he gave me has already benefited me immensely. I should encounter some danger this time. Unless it's a critical moment, I shouldn't disturb the Ancestor God, Yi Fan thought in his heart. In the chat group, Yangon Pawn Shop's worker. The Ancestor God disappeared just like that? Wow, I just went offline because I had something to do. I have a question to ask the Ancestor God. I don't know how long it will take for the Ancestor God to appear again. To Shi Ancient Emperor Jade. Little boy, what do you want? Yangon Pawn Shop's worker. It's very complicated. You might not understand. To Shi Ancient Emperor Jade. White eyes. JPG. You're just a little boy. What complicated things can you have? Yangon Pawn Shop's worker. Sigh. When the ancestor god appears again, remember to at me. After saying that, the worker went offline. To she ancient Emperor Jade. Everyone, how are you guys developing now? Cough cough, I have already become a battle spirit realm expert. Yes, I'm probably a second or third tier expert in this world. I feel that I should be able to become a battle emperor soon. As for this empire, Brother Yen and I have already begun to spread the glory of the ancestor god. I've also found some treasures that I plan to offer to the ancestor god to repay his kindness. Although Wang Feng had left the chat group, he could still receive the messages. Peeping? Do Ling, how long has it been? Looks like the speed at which I pull out seedlings is a little fast. Wang Feng thought for a moment. Speaking of which, that's right, that fellow Xiao Yen practices the flame mantra. That kind of chi method allows one to absorb heavenly flames to train. The heavenly flame that is swallowed can still be used. The wisp of karmic fire seed that I gave each of them was enough to bring the flame mantra to the next level. Their initial cultivation speed had greatly increased. No wonder their cultivation speed was so fast. Moreover, it looks like this fellow Xiao Yen is doing this because of me. I confessed to Xiao Sun Air in advance. After all, Yao Lao's matter couldn't be hidden that day. If he had confessed earlier, given his relationship with Xiao Sun Air, it would have been around this time. Then, Xiao Yen might have told Xiao Sun Air about the flame mantra. Otherwise, Xiao Sun Air would not have been so quick. This guy is also a romantic. Wang Feng thought for a moment and felt that their speed was still a little slow. However, he did not know how long it would take for Xiao Yen to finish swallowing all the heavenly flames in the continent. I should find an opportunity to give him a wisp of sun essence flame to increase their speed. Suddenly, Wang Fengxin's heart moved. Xiao Yen has such a big change in his early days. I wonder if Nalin Yenron's classic annulment of the marriage happened? Speaking of which, this special child of destiny had secretly sensed me that day. Wang Feng shook his head slightly. He had sensed it before. However, Wang Feng was not interested in this child of destiny. He did not deal with it. At this moment, in the chat group, borrow another 10,000 years from heaven. To she ancient god Jade, we have already started to develop the power of the stars. Moreover, we have built a rough training system around the cultivation of the stars. What is interesting is that when we cultivate and absorb the power of the stars, we will awaken different abilities. We have named this ability Star Spirit. Now, our 100 schools of thought have different star spirit. This has greatly increased the potential and strength of the human race. Star Spirit? Wang Feng was slightly taken aback. Could it be something similar to a martial soul? Back then, Wang Feng had casually picked an energy star from the Douluo universe and directly crushed it. Then, it turned into boundless energy and formed that waterfall of stars, sprinkling energy onto the great Qin world. As for what it would change into, Wang Feng had not thought about it. Borrow another 10,000 years from heaven. Currently, with the power of the star spirit, the great Qin army is becoming stronger and stronger. It has already begun to spread to the ordinary people. We have also recovered more than half of the territory that the demons have taken. At most, we should be able to suppress the demons to the northern border in a few months. The situation is very good. I plan to wait until we have completely defeated the demons before holding a grand sacrificial ceremony. This time, we will prepare a large amount of demon blood as well as many precious items. We will sacrifice them to the ancestor god to thank him for his grace. Hearing this, Wang Feng nodded slightly. The great Qin world had stabilized. Not only was the power of faith slowly stabilizing, but it was also slowly contributing precious resources. It could be said that the situation had stabilized. What we need to pay attention to is that if the god behind the demons comes, he will definitely destroy the great Qin world. At that time, we will need to descend and deal with that god. Wang Feng pondered. Those demons were a kind of god spawn. Perhaps they were ordered to invade the great Qin world. They originally thought that it would be easy. After all, this was a feudal empire with an extremely low level of civilization and cold weapons. Now they had encountered a huge counterattack and the world had changed. Once the demons were defeated, the god behind them would definitely be alerted. Perhaps he had already been alerted but had not yet made a move and was observing in the dark. At this moment, Ing Zheng finished speaking. Cao Cao spoke. As for my side, saying that the situation is very good is not enough to describe it. I have been thinking for another 10,000 years about the matter of founding a country. Now that the entire world is in the bag, the main thing is the momentum. Our army is strong to begin with. That ancestor god descended and revived hundreds of thousands of soldiers in the blink of an eye. The other two factions basically do not even have the thought of opposing us. Even if these two factions have extremely powerful generals and strategists. End of chapter. Chapter 1804. But without the will to fight, it's basically impossible for them to go against me. How should I put it? The other two forces think that I'm the chosen one, chosen by the heavens. They've already surrendered to me one after another. Being invincible is so lonely. Ing Zheng didn't seem to have expected this and was very surprised. Logically speaking, just one war was not enough to determine who was the master of the entire world. Even if they were struggling at death's door, it might drag on for more than 10 years. Especially when the other two forces were originally in a state of alliance. After losing a crucial war, it was impossible for them to fall apart so quickly. Not to mention surrendering. However, after hearing the latter's words, he understood. Indeed, based on the video that day, the two armies fought. They had already won. In the end, all the soldiers on one side were resurrected. With such a mighty force, even if these resurrected soldiers were not much different from before, the other party had no will to fight. It was too terrifying. In the future battles, even if they had a powerful plan and power, they would consider this point. If the other party was resurrected, how should they fight? They couldn't fight. It was just a meaningless struggle. The army had no morale, the leader had no will to fight. Then, they could only surrender. As long as the golden name of the ancestor god was behind them. Even if the ancestor god didn't descend, it would still be a deterrent. This kind of invisible help had even greater influence. When Wang Feng heard Cao Cao's words, he just smiled. In fact, because the world Cao Cao was in was very different from the three kingdoms in history. Moreover, the trajectories were not the same. Even without his help, if it went according to normal progress, Cao Cao might not lose at Red Cliff. Because in the world of the three kingdoms, many schemes were useless. Martial strength was more important than everything. It was because that world was obviously special that it attracted the attention of other gods, which led to Cao Cao's side being attacked by the dimension reduction. That god wanted to use the sun's essence fire to defeat Cao Cao, the chosen one, and then unify the Lu, Sun, and Cao families. Unfortunately, because of the chat group, Wang Feng interfered. He ruined his wishful thinking. Cao Cao's side is also on the right track, but the miracle will still happen. Wang Feng thought for a while. As for what the miracle will be, we'll see when the time comes. The potential of the generals and strategists of the middle and high martial nations was still very great. Although there was no need to take them as his followers, the power of faith they could produce was still extraordinary. I'm afraid it can't compare to the Child of Destiny, but with the Chaos Green Lotus amplification, the power of faith is enough to nurture a group of special ancestral realm creatures. The progress of these worlds made Wang Feng quite pleased. At this rate, the power of faith would increase by a large amount during the next sacrificial ceremony. There was no need for Yi Fan and Jing Tian to build the third reincarnation. I wonder how Ghostly is doing. Just as Wang Feng was thinking, he suddenly sensed a special call from Ghostly. Sacrificial ceremony? What does Ghostly want to offer me? The world of immortal execution. Fox Branch Mountain Ghost King Sect. In the belly of the mountain. Rolling blood-red clouds pressed down in the cave like clouds. Gulp, gulp. In front of him, there was a pool of blood that emitted a bone-chilling sound. A strange and evil power surged in the blood pool. Above the blood pool, an ancient cauldron exuded a pure and auspicious aura of the immortal Tao. It was like an immortal treasure, especially when the entire cauldron was surrounded by a dense, auspicious aura. It formed a great contrast with the blood pool below. In the blood pool, 4 giant beasts were on the verge of death. These 4 giant beasts were all ancient divine beasts or ferocious beasts with the ability to turn the world upside down. Tao Tai, Kuei, Huang Niao, and Blackwater Mystical Snake. They were one of the few powerful creatures in the immortal execution realm. However, at this moment, they were all imprisoned here, powerless to howl. A middle-aged man with an aura that seemed to be able to swallow mountains and rivers stood at the edge of the blood pool, watching all of this with an indifferent expression. Next to him was a mysterious man in a black robe. The 4 spirits' blood formation has been completed. Next, we just need to wait for a good opportunity, and the sect master will be able to control this chaotic power to create a new world and open the Azura Gate. With supreme divine might, no one in this world will be your mat. The mysterious man's voice was hoarse. A cold smile appeared on the middle-aged man's face. He seemed to be smiling. At this moment, a figure walked in from outside. The middle-aged man suddenly turned around and looked at the newcomer, frowning slightly. Ghostly? It's you? Who allowed you to come here without my permission? The middle-aged man's eyes were filled with surprise, as if he was surprised that Ghostly was still alive. Ghost King, I don't know what you're doing, Ghostly said slowly. I don't know what that blood pool is either, but I've already sensed it. This is definitely not something good. I know what your goal is. What do you mean? The middle-aged man said indifferently. Leave this place quickly, and I can pretend that nothing happened. Ghostly shook his head. Ghost King, this blood pool contains an extremely evil power. You want to use this blood pool to obtain more power. Have you ever thought that you can control this power? The middle-aged man looked at Ghostly with a gloomy expression. I'll say it again. Leave this place, and I can pretend that nothing happened. Don't tell me you still want to stop me? No, I don't want to stop you, Ghostly said slowly. I know you want to obtain more power. It's not like what Mr. Ghost said, to make this world submit to you. But you want to destroy the world's righteous path, to avenge Baiyao. Ha ha! The middle-aged man laughed loudly. His eyes gradually turned cold as he looked at Ghostly. You think you know me very well? Ghostly did not speak. That mysterious man in black robe also did not speak. Just that under the black robe, those eyes seemed to be smiling. I don't know, but someone does, Ghostly said slowly. After he finished speaking, light footsteps could be heard in the cave. Ring ring. The crisp sound of the bell echoed in the air. In an instant, the middle-aged man seemed to be struck by lightning. His entire person was stunned on the spot. Even the mysterious man next to him seemed to have stopped breathing. Baiyao. The middle-aged man looked at that emerald-green figure and said absent-mindedly, How is this possible? His own daughter had been dead for many years. Only a wisp of her remnant soul remained. Basically, there was no possibility of her being resurrected. If not for that, he would not have such a huge hatred in his heart. However, she appeared in front of him alive. Father, Baiyao said softly. It's me. I'm back. She walked in front of the middle-aged man and hugged him gently. Ghost King, whether it's a real person or not, you have to see clearly a dead person cannot be resurrected. This is a power that goes against heaven and earth. The mysterious man said with a hoarse voice. It's absolutely impossible. Ghostly at the side laughed. End of this chapter. Chapter 1805. Absolutely impossible? Ghostly smiled and glanced at the mysterious man. Mr. Ghost King's sect was second only to Ghost King. No one knew his background, mysterious and unpredictable. Ghostly knew, this blood pool most likely had a very close relationship with Mr. Ghost. But, facing Mr. Ghost's suspicion, Ghostly just looked at Ghost King indifferently. You're really not dead? At this moment, the middle-aged man was stunned when Bai Yao gently hugged him. That familiar breath and tone, even after so many years, he still remembered. Illusion? Dream? He would rather it was an illusion and a dream. But this was real, so real that it could not be more real. The mysterious man was silent. With his vision, he naturally could see, that must be a real person who existed. Breath of life, it could not be wrong. But, how did she revive? Bai Yao had passed away for more than 10 years, leaving only a remnant soul. To have the ability to revive her, that was an unimaginable existence. No matter if it was an ancient artifact or a forbidden secret, it was impossible to completely revive her like before. I died, but was revived by a god. Bai Yao said softly. In fact, she did not know who revived her. Everything was said by Ghostly. God? Ghost King's gaze froze, looking at Ghostly. Yes. Ghostly said slowly, this is also the reason why I came here. A god who transcends the universe, a god who is immeasurably supreme. He helped me revive Bai Yao. I know you may have many doubts in your heart, and many things you do not understand. But you only need to stop this blood pool plan, and hand it over to me, then you will know the reason. Hand it over to you? Before Ghost King spoke, Mr. Ghost said coldly, do you know what this blood pool is? Ghost King's sect spent so much effort to do it. Now that the plan is about to succeed, you say hand it over to you? Do you think Ghost King will listen to you? Ghost King was silent. He was an ambitious person. This blood pool was the only way to go against the righteous path, especially the Blue Cloud sect's immortal sword formation. If he let it go, then it would be impossible to revive Ghost King's sect. Bai Yao's death only strengthened his purpose, but it was not decisive. This four-spirit blood formation had been planned for decades. Until now, it had entered the completion stage. How could he give up just like that? This is the four spirits blood formation. Now that it has been formed, its power is enough to destroy the heavens and the earth. Now it has already formed. Mr. Ghost had just said half. Suddenly, he was interrupted by Ghostly. Destroy the world? Ghostly shook his head and said, is it possible to destroy the heavens and earth with a flick of a finger? Mr. Ghost was speechless. This was just AF * King description. Naturally, it couldn't really reach that level. But the ancestor god can. Ghostly said calmly, he can overturn our entire world with a flick of his finger. Mr. Ghost. The Ghost King's breathing paused slightly as he looked at Ghostly with a heavy gaze. I did not come here to ask you to believe in the ancestor god like me. Ghostly said, it's just that I don't want to see you use this four spirits blood formation to commit evil and cause chaos in the world, causing the world to be plunged into misery and suffering. But you guys are unable to handle this four spirit blood formation, because like what Mr. Ghost said, this four spirit blood formation has already been activated, and the evil power contained within is something you guys are unable to control. Mr. Ghost frowned slightly. He did not expect Ghostly to think of this. Since you know this, why are you still obstructing us? The Ghost King asked. The four spirit blood formation used the four ancient mythical beasts as a sacrifice, mixed with the blood of countless wild beasts, and matched with the Ghost King sect's treasured treasure, Crouching Dragon Cauldron. Forming this four-spirit blood formation could activate the power of Azura, allowing all living creatures trapped within to be controlled. It was extremely powerful, and once it was formed, it could not be stopped. I am unable to handle such an evil thing, but the ancestor god can. Ghostly looked at the rolling blood pool, his gaze flickering. In the second video in the group, he saw the 10,000-year-old brother sacrificing the demon blood, offering it to the ancestor god. So he thought of offering this blood pool to the ancestor god. Firstly, this evil and powerful power, he did not have the confidence to control it, but the ancestor god definitely could. Secondly, with the ancestor god's greatness, facing this sacrifice, he could easily deal with it. It could be considered as avoiding a disaster for this world. He brought Baiyao here today naturally for this. Ghostly, although Baiyao is in front of me now. If it is really the ancestor god that you said resurrected, I am grateful to him. But if you want the four-spirit blood formation, this is impossible. Ghost King lightly shook his head. Hearing this, Ghostly sighed softly. Ghost King was also an ambitious person. Logically speaking, with his knowledge and vision, he should be able to understand. However, the existence of the ancestor god and the existence of the chat group had far exceeded the knowledge of this world. It was already beyond Ghost King's imagination. For him to believe it was naturally impossible. Father, what Xiao Fan said is true. At this time, Baiyao raised her head, staring at her father. You should believe him this time. If you really want to use the power of the four-spirit blood formation, but can you withstand the pressure brought by this power? At that time, will you still be my father? Now that I am back, I don't want you to be gone. Baiyao's words made Ghost King's body tremble slightly. There was a slight change in his eyes. Mr. Ghost at the side did not say anything. After a while, Ghost King looked at Ghostly and said in a low voice, "What do you want to do?" Hearing this, Ghostly smiled. Sure enough, bringing Baiyao here was the right choice. Ancestral realm. Such a dense blood qi. Wang Feng murmured. What did Ghostly use as a sacrifice? It is stronger than the blood of those demons. Could it be the four-spirit blood formation? The mysterious formation formed by using the four ancient divine beasts as sacrifices, mixed with the blood of the four divine beasts. It is extremely rare blood. Wang Feng knew quite a lot about the immortal execution world. In that world, the most powerful force was the immortal execution sword formation. However, that immortal execution sword formation was not too related to the immortal execution sword formation in the primitive universe. It was just that the name was the same. The difference in power was several dimensions, and this four-spirit blood formation was comparable to the immortal execution sword formation. It could be said to be the top force in the immortal execution world. Ghost Li's other intention of giving this thing is probably to let me deal with this four-spirit blood formation. Otherwise, if it goes according to the original path, there will be a great war with countless casualties. It seems that after Baiyao's resurrection, Ghostly has deviated from the original path of growth. Not bad. Wang Feng sighed with emotion. He could only feel the billowing blood coming from the immortal execution world, mixed with the power of faith. After the blood is strengthened by the Chaos Green Lotus, its power will be stronger. Moreover, it is the blood of divine beasts. Because of the formation, the blood contains the special power of Azura. Then it is the most suitable first batch of creatures for the Azura realm. The next reincarnation will be the Azura realm. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.